Chapter 1759, Blood Cherry Blossom, 1. After hearing Uncle Long's words, Baby said with a conflicted expression, "Uncle Long, I want to see that flower." "Why are you looking at that flower?" "We should quickly go back and tell the little girl what we've heard so that she can take early precautions," Uncle Long said with a serious expression. The news he had overheard outside the main hall had shocked and angered him. He had never thought that the other party would have planted a spy around the people who had entered the secret realm. If that was the case, the people who had been tricked into the secret realm would be in even more danger. As a result, he had to tell this news to the little girl as soon as possible, before things got to a point where they could no longer turn back. "The last time I left, I asked the Yao family's elder to pee in the blood pool where the flower is growing, so I suspect that the flower's rage is related to this. Therefore, I wanted to go and find out some news and watch the show at the same time," Baby said softly. As soon as it said this, Uncle Dragon, Yu, and Ling Quan could not help but stare at it with their eyes wide open. "Don't look at me like that. They'll be shy." Baby blinked his watery silver eyes and said with some embarrassment, "Treasure. Since that's the case, let's go take a look. You guys lead the way." After hearing what the baby had to say, Uncle Long finally came back to his senses. His face was filled with helplessness. Furthermore, he looked at the baby with a gaze full of surprise and disbelief. He really couldn't think of how this seemingly cute little fox could have so many unexpected and devilish ideas. This really made him. I knew Uncle Long was the best," Baby said with a fawning look. "Treasure. To think that we're still comrades. You did such a thing and you didn't even tell us anything. You're really not a good friend." At this moment, Ling pouted his lips and spoke out in dissatisfaction. "I didn't have time to tell you. After all, there were a group of outsiders present at that time. If they had heard it and word of it spread, how would I be able to survive in the divine realm in the future?" Baby said in a slightly aggrieved tone, her beautiful silver eyes peeking at Ling Hiyu from time to time. "Baby's words are right, Ling. You don't have to be so calculative. Peacemaker, you advised. You're too easy to talk to." Ling glared at Yu and said with some dissatisfaction, "What else can I do? You can still beat it up," Yu said helplessly. Ling didn't say anything else, but it still stared at the disloyal baby in its eyes. "Ha! It's done. Why are the three of you fighting among yourselves? Didn't you want to see that flower? Let's go." Seeing that the three little beasts were actually bickering, Uncle Long was suddenly in a good mood. It's good to be young. He was always so energetic. It's more important to get down to business. The three little beasts' attention was diverted, and they hurriedly nodded. Then, they brought Uncle Long to the secret room. As soon as they entered the secret room, they saw the middle-aged man leading the black-clothed men to kneel before the bright red blood cherry blossom. The flower was shaking its branches emotionally, and the large petals on the flower head were also shaking, in danger of falling at any moment. The three little beasts were confused. They didn't know why the men in black knelt down to a flower. Their faces were pale as if they were terrified. However, the experienced Uncle Long understood. "Damn it. Is this how you guys do things?" A human face could be vaguely seen on the large flower pot. Although the facial features could not be clearly seen, the enchanting voice was enough to tell that the speaker was a woman. The voice seemed to have a hint of charm, so when she spoke, the black-clothed men immediately flushed red as if they were suffering great pain. "Thanks, please forgive me, my lord," all the men in black said in unison as they endured the indescribable pain. "That flower is their master?" When Baby heard this, he could not help but widen his eyes as he whispered in disbelief. "It seems so," Yu replied seriously. "If I'm not wrong, this flower is only a clone, not the main body," Uncle Long said with a serious face. He knew that there was something strange about the flower the moment he saw it, so he took a closer look at it. The main purpose of this flower was probably to absorb more energy for its owner. However, it was only a clone, and it almost sucked all the powerful beings they had captured dry. From this, it could be seen how powerful and evil the owner was. Not the main body? Then wouldn't that old man of the Yao family have peed in vain? Baby said disappointedly. It had thought that it could add some nutrients to the flower. Now it seemed like he had worked for nothing. Why is there white urine? Uncle Long didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he patted baby's little head and said, "This flower is mainly for sucking blood, but you added something else into the blood pool. Do you think the blood pool can still be pure? If I'm not wrong, this flower really flew into a rage because of your masterpiece." "Really? It seems that my efforts were not in vain." After hearing Uncle Long's words, baby proudly raised his little head and said, "Why would I do it for nothing? The effect seems pretty good." The only pity was that this flower was only a clone. If it was the original body, it would be impossible for the treasure to add anything to the blood pool. "That's good." Uncle Long's praise made baby's proud tail almost raise up. At this moment, the flower spoke again. "Forgive? You've ruined my big plan. You're clearly unforgivable, yet you still want me to let you go." As the flower spoke, it shook its branches excitedly to show its anger. Following that, countless feelers emerged from the flower. The feelers were long and thin, and there was a suction cup on the head of the feelers. The surface of the feelers was filled with sharp, teeth-like thorns. When the men in black saw the suction cups, they immediately froze as if they had fallen into hell. Their eyes were wide open with fear. In an instant, the tentacle pierced into the bodies of the men in black. In the blink of an eye, the men in black fell to the ground one by one. At this time, they were already old and wrinkled, only a layer of skin and bones left. The three little beasts almost vomited. This was really too disgusting. The person who was still alive just now was sucked dry by the flower in the blink of an eye. This flower was simply comparable to a man-eating flower. It was wrong. It was even more powerful than the man-eating flower, because the man-eating flower didn't have its speed. After sucking all the men in black dry, the blood cherry blossom waved its feelers in front of the middle-aged man, but it did not attack him. "Go and find out who added something unclean to the blood pool. After catching him, bring him to me. I want to deal with him myself. As for you, seeing that you're still useful, I'll spare you this time. If there's a next time, you'll end up like them." Blood cherry blossom warned without the slightest hint of emotion. Chapter 1760, Blood Cherry Blossom, 2. "Thank you for not killing me, my lord." The middle-aged man quickly kowtowed. In fact, he was quite aggrieved. A dignified hierarch was like a grandson in front of a flower, submissive and obedient. This made him feel quite unbalanced. One should know that hierarch was the top master in the divine world, but as long as he thought of his master's magical means, he could not even have the slightest thought of betraying her. Not to mention, his life was still in the hands of his master. Therefore, even if he felt that it was unfair, he had to accept it. This was the sorrow of being a subordinate. Good luck. After the blood cherry blossom warned him, it disappeared. After a long time, the middle-aged man stood up from the ground. At this time, the black clothes on his body were mostly soaked in cold sweat. Then he walked out of the secret chamber with difficulty. After the middle-aged man left, baby walked to the side of the blood pool and looked at the huge flower that was on the verge of collapse and in full bloom. He reached out his claws. "Little fellow, don't act rashly. If we are discovered by the true body of this flower, none of us will be able to leave this place." Seeing this, Uncle Long was so scared that he quickly held the treasure tightly in his arms. Now was not the time to pick flowers, his life was more important. "I really hate this flower. I want to pull out its petals and see how it can still suck human blood." Baby said indignantly, "Little ancestor, you don't want to live anymore. That flower is not simple." Uncle Long's face turned pale with fear as he hurriedly warned, "How is it not simple? Wasn't it just a flower that liked to suck people's blood? It's probably the same race as the man-eating flower." Baby said disapprovingly, "Little guy, I'm afraid even I can't deal with this. Uncle Hua Long, don't you think it's simple?" Uncle Long asked. Although he wasn't sure about the origin of the flower, he could tell from the pressure that the blood cherry blossom had just displayed that the flower's actual strength was higher than his. Otherwise, why would the middle-aged man address it as his lord? How could his lord be weak if he could make a reverent god submit to him? But Baby hesitated, it really wanted to rush the flower. Treasure. There's still a long way to go, so it won't be too late to pick up these flowers when you're stronger in the future. Let's quickly leave this place, Uncle Long urged. After he finished speaking, he extended his arm and hugged Ling Hiyu before leaving the secret room in a hurry. On the way out of the valley, even though Baby was filled with regret, it was still sensible and did not cause any trouble for Uncle Long. However, once they returned to Lung Ruox's house, Baby immediately snuggled into its master's warm embrace, unwilling to leave even if it meant death. Lung Ruoxue, who was sitting in the garden, saw the baby's appearance and a trace of doubt appeared in her beautiful eyes. What's wrong with my baby? It was listless. My lovely master. Baby snuggled in Lung Ruox's arms, ignoring the evil man's glare, and acted coquettishly with its master. Little girl, I have something important to tell you, the helpless Uncle Long said straightforwardly. What? Lung Ruoxue saw the grave expression on Uncle Long's face and nodded her head. Then, she brought the evil demon and Uncle Long to the living room. After closing the door of the living room, Uncle Long told He Pan everything that he had heard in the valley. After Lung Ruoxue had heard it, her expression turned serious. Thanks, he didn't expect Godfather and the others to have the other party's hidden chess piece. With such a time bomb by their side, wasn't it in danger of exploding at any time? At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue started to worry about the safety of her godfather and the others. Shui, don't worry, the other party won't easily expose that hidden chess piece. Otherwise, the old man of the Ning family and the others would have been captured by the man in black long ago. Seeing Lung Ruox's worry, the evildoer consoled her. I know, Lung Ruoxue nodded. She was being overly concerned. She knew that Godfather and the others were strong enough to deal with any unexpected situation, but she still couldn't help but worry. I think as long as we quickly find Master Ning and the others and tell him about this, we'll find a way to find the hidden chess piece, and everyone's safety will be guaranteed. Uncle Long said. Uncle Long, other than the few of us, don't let anyone else know about this for the time being, so as not to disturb their hearts and cause them to go out of control. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. I understand. Uncle Long nodded and continued, Oh right. Little girl, a lot of the life force of those captured people has been absorbed. I wonder if you can concoct some life-restoring pills. If you can save them, they will owe you a big favor. If you need their help in the future, they will definitely do their best. A pill that can restore life force. Lung Ruoxue was stunned. She had many pills that could replenish her divine power and heal her injuries, but she had never refined a pill that could recover her vitality. Uncle Long, how can a pill that can restore vitality be so easy to refine? Let's not talk about whether or not it can be successfully refined. I'm afraid we won't even be able to gather the medicinal herbs needed to refine the pill. The demon reminded. Although it would be beneficial for them to make those people or beasts owe Shui a favor, refining a pill that could restore vitality was not a joke. He didn't want Shui to work hard for those irrelevant people. What if she met a few ungrateful people? Wouldn't that be asking for trouble? I know. However, we just found a lot of precious and rare medicinal herbs and refining materials in the black-clothed man's treasure room. With those, it should be enough to refine vitality-restoring pills, right? Uncle Long said uncertainly. After all, he was an amateur when it came to alchemy. What kind of herbs do you have? When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she asked curiously. There are so many good things that you can't even imagine. Uncle Long kept them in suspense. Although he didn't know how to refine pills, he was very familiar with precious natural treasures. This could also be considered a natural talent of Beastie. My lovely master. It's all here. At this moment, Baby took out a storage ring and passed it to Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue casually picked one up and inspected it with her divine sense. She was instantly overjoyed. As expected, they were all good things. And they were all things that she was very interested in. Then she changed to another ring to check, and the joy on her face became more and more obvious. There's even dragon beard grass. With a thought, Lung Ruoxue took out a light green, finger-thick, crystal clear, and beautiful blade of grass. This was good stuff. Furthermore, it was the main ingredient in refining the best healing elixir. However, the dragon's beard had long become a legend in the divine realm, and she had only been lucky enough to see it among the herbs that her master had left for her. However, the dragon's beard was very difficult to cultivate. Therefore, the dragon's beard in her hand had always been lying in the storage room of the universal bracelet. Otherwise, Qing-ju would have made his move. But now that there was another dragon's beard grass, Qing-ju would probably be very happy. Chapter 1761, Blood Cherry Blossom, 3. Little girl, it's just a dragon's beard grass. Calm down. There's even better stuff coming up. Uncle Long said with a mysterious smile. Really? Lung Ruoxue couldn't hide her joy as she asked with a face full of anticipation. After that, she found many herbs that were more precious than the dragon's beard. There was even a fish scale flower that even her master had described as a legend. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue's mood could no longer be described with the word surprise. She was a little shocked. Baby, they've just razed the entire warehouse to the ground. When she saw this, Lung Ruoxue could already guess that these items definitely did not belong to the men in black. In the end, she was numb to it. After placing all the items into the bracelet and handing it over to Qing-ju for safekeeping, Lung Ruoxue gently stroked the baby's fur and praised, "Treasure! You guys did well." Hee hee. Baby smiled proudly. However, when he heard Lung Ruoxue only praise his beastie, Uncle Long was unhappy. "Little girl, I did my part too. Why don't you praise me?" Uncle Long pouted and acted cute. "Uncle Long has worked hard too. He'll prepare a big meal for you tonight." Lung Ruoxue's face was full of black lines as she coaxed. "This is more like it." Uncle Long was satisfied. Then he said, "Little girl, now that you're so rich, it's not a big deal to support me, right? Uncle Long will be with you from now on. It is our honor that Uncle Long is willing to follow us." Lung Ruoxue could not help but wipe the cold sweat off her forehead. "Then it's a deal. From now on Uncle Long, am yours," Uncle Long said with a faint smile. However, his words scared Lung Ruoxue so much that she broke out in cold sweat. Lung Ruoxue looked at the evil man with a dark expression on her face and could not help but think in her heart, "Uncle Long. Isn't he just following us? Did he have to be so ambiguous? Ha! They're the people who follow you." Uncle Long added tactfully when he saw that the evildoer's expression was not too good. Looking at the mischievous Uncle Long, Lung Ruoxue felt helpless. She knew that Uncle Long was doing this on purpose. However, it was rare to see this side of Uncle Long, so it was quite novel. Sighing lightly, Lung Ruoxue turned to Uncle Long and said, "Uncle Long, you should go back to your room and rest. I'm going to tell Feng De and the others to prepare dinner." With that, Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer left the living room. Just as they entered the garden, Lung Ruoxue heard a loud noise coming from the garden. She immediately exchanged glances with the demon and the two of them walked towards the source of the noise. "What happened?" Lung Ruoxue frowned as she looked at Feng De. "Miss, this elder of the Yao family asked us to arrange accommodation for them, but I heard that we don't have to be responsible for their food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation, so we don't intend to arrange any for them. More importantly, there aren't that many rooms." Feng De reported truthfully. "Elder Yao, didn't we agree on this before?" Lung Ruoxue said as she looked at the Yao family elder who was leading the group. "It was agreed. But you can't just kick us out of this house." The Yao family elder was so angry that his face and neck turned red as he shouted at the top of his lungs. Those who had the same thoughts as him also glared at him. "Why can't I? We've saved you from the secret chamber and are willing to take you out of the secret realm. Isn't that enough?" Lung Ruoxue raised her brows and said unhappily, "We have also paid you. Since you have agreed to take us out of this secret realm, you should naturally protect our safety. How can you drive us out of this house?" The elder of the Yao family said angrily. He would rather die than leave this place. There was no place safer than here. "Where's the reward you paid?" It was just a bunch of white notes, and he had the nerve to say that he paid? Moreover, the one who said that you don't have to be responsible for your food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation is you, right? This house is within the living area, so what's wrong with Feng De and the others asking you to leave? Leng Ruoxue retorted. Naturally, she was siding with him. Her words immediately rendered the Yao family elders speechless. After a long while, the Yao family elder finally stammered, "We don't want to live in a room, okay? You can't be so heartless as to chase us out of this house. We will lose our lives if we stay outside. Thanks, if you don't want to go out, then pay. What's there to say?" At this moment, the precious item in Leng Ruoxue's arms spoke in a cold voice. "We've paid so much money, but we don't even have a place to stay. Now we want to stay in the courtyard, and you still want us to pay?" The Yao family elder and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. "We agreed on this back then. Besides, I haven't received your money yet." Baby spread out his little paws and said in a businesslike manner, "You promised to take us out of the secret realm." The Yao family elder reminded, "That's right. I did say that, but I didn't say that I have to ensure your safety before you leave the secret realm. So, the condition for taking you out is that you have to stay alive." Baby explained with an innocent look. This time, the Yao family elder and the others were all dumbfounded. If they were not willing to protect them, then why would they spend so much money to have these people escort them out of the mystic realm? This was a loss-making business. "Of course, if you want us to be responsible for your safety in the secret plane, you'll also have to pay separately, including food, clothing, housing, and transportation. In short, I only collect money for one thing, and am afraid you'll find it expensive, so I separated all the payment. I've put in a lot of effort for you guys." Seeing that they didn't say anything, Baby could only talk to himself again. After listening to Baby's words, Feng De and the others laughed in their hearts. None of them had expected that Baby, who usually loved to act coquettishly with their miss, would be so good at making money. This black-hearted and ruthless drive made them forget it. Did you hear what the Baby said? Getting you out of the secret chamber is one thing, getting you out of the mystery land is another, and your safety in the mystery land, as well as your clothes, food, and accommodation are all counted separately. So, don't get it wrong, you only paid for getting out of the secret chamber and the mystery land, and you didn't choose any other items. Also, I only saw a pile of white slips, not even the shadow of a crystal. Therefore, don't tell me how much you've paid us. I'll just take it as a big joke." Leng Ruoxue said in an unpleasant tone. In fact, she didn't want to be so harsh to them, but these people had only been in the house for less than half a day and they had already started to stir up trouble. Furthermore, they were led by the Yao family elders. She, who had never had a good impression of the Yao family, naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity to teach them a lesson. She wanted them to know that no matter what their previous status was, when they were here, they had to listen to her. Moreover, even if they were to stay outside the house, there wouldn't be much danger as long as they don't expose themselves. After all, Ling's invisibility was very useful. However, Leng Ruoxue guessed that these people would never have thought that she would still let Ling cast an invisibility spell on them. Otherwise, they would not have judged the heart of a gentleman with the heart of a villain, even though she had never thought of herself as a gentleman. "Miss Ling, let's have a good discussion." After a long while, the elder of the Yao clan gave in. At a time like this, he did not want to fall out with Leng Ruoxue and the others. Initially, he had only wanted to use the power of the masses to make Leng Ruoxue and the others not dare to look down on him. At the same time, he would fight for more benefits for himself. Who knew that he would overreach himself? Therefore, he could only think of a way to remedy this. What does Elder Yao want to discuss? If you guys didn't make a ruckus and just wanted to talk things out, I wouldn't have to make things so clear. Leng Ruoxue sighed and said helplessly, "I know we weren't calm enough. We heard your subordinates telling us to wait outside the house, so we got anxious." The elder of the Yao family said politely, "Elder Yao, what did I say? What I'm saying is that there aren't enough rooms, and the space in the courtyard is limited, so please move outside the house without us arranging your food, clothing, and accommodation, right?" Feng asked. That's the right thing to say." The Yao family elder nodded with a red face. If that's the case, how can you say we're kicking you out? Of course, we have to let our own people and those who have paid the room fee come first to our current rooms and courtyards, isn't that right? Fengde asked again. That's right. That's right. The Yao family elder's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Then you still dare to wrong us? Fengde's eyes widened in anger as he glared at the Yao family's elder. None of the Yao family's people were good. They were all so annoying. It was our slip of the tongue. We were too scared. The elder of the Yao family said pitifully, "You were the ones who said you didn't need our arrangements. What's the use of being afraid now?" Fengde shouted with his eyes wide open. Then we want you to arrange a place for us to stay. That should be fine, right? The Yao family elder said without any backbone. He really didn't want to leave this house. It's too late. The courtyard has been arranged. Fengde said with a smirk. You can also give us a small corner. As long as we can have a place to sit. The Yao family elder was unwilling to give up and settled for the second best. Are you sure? Fengde asked in disbelief. As long as you don't let us leave this house, anywhere is fine. We're willing to pay. Seeing that there was a chance, the Yao family elder quickly said, You can represent them? Fengde turned his gaze to the others and asked. Chapter 1762, Luring the Tiger Out of the Mountain 1. Hearing Fengde's words, the Yao family's elder quickly turned to look at the others, and the others immediately said, Elder Yao's opinion is our opinion. Everyone still had lingering fear. At this time, who dared to say that the Yao family elder didn't represent them? If someone really dared to say that, the old man from the Yao family would definitely not care about them anymore. Right now, they really needed a pillar of support. It seemed that other than the Yao family's elder who had suffered together with them, they could not find any other suitable person. In that case, I'll arrange a corner for you. You were the ones who said you weren't picky. Don't be so picky when the time comes, or you'll definitely regret it. Fengde said the ugly words first, which was also a warning in disguise. Even if it's a corner, the price is the same as staying in a room. So, you'd better consider it carefully before making a decision. At this time, Baby added. When Fengde heard its words, he couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead. He thought to himself, this baby is really ruthless. He was clearly taking advantage of her. However, this was a good opportunity. Fortunately, he didn't say that the price would be reduced by half. Otherwise, he would have ruined the treasure. When the Yao family elder and the others heard Bao Bao's words, they were completely speechless. Why did they have to fight back and forth? They didn't get any benefits. Instead, they didn't pay any less, but they couldn't compare to others in what they paid. This was really too much. But what else could they say? If they had known earlier, they might as well have agreed to the other party's arrangement of food, accommodation, and transportation. What's with Baby's eyes widened in anger. Just as he was about to say, and throw you into the river to feed the fish, he was interrupted by the Yao family elder. If the price is the same, then so be it. However, for the same price, the place we live in is not as good as others. Can you compensate us with something? The elder of the Yao family probed. To put it bluntly, he felt that he had suffered a loss, so he wanted to get back some face. You bastard! You don't have the right to talk about conditions. You can't stay if you want to. The baby roared angrily. He was so angry that all the fur on his body stood up, and he bared his fangs and brandished his claws. He was just short of rushing forward to scratch the Yao family elder. Stay. Well, stay. The Yao family elder wanted to cry but had no tears. Woo, this seemingly cute little fox, how could she be so fierce? Moreover, when the others heard his words, they seemed to have some resentment. In fact, who was he doing this for? Why didn't they understand him? He felt extremely aggrieved. Then stop talking nonsense. Otherwise, you won't be able to find anything. Baby urged. The Yao family elder and the others nodded. Then, a series of procedures were carried out, such as writing an IOU, taking a blood oath, and so on. After going through all the procedures again, Fengde arranged for them to sit in a corner in the northwest corner of the yard. It was not big, only enough for them to sit cross-legged and meditate. There was no extra space. When the Yao family elder and the others saw this, their hearts were bleeding. They charged them 500,000 top-grade crystals just for this place. These people were really robbing them. This was much faster than robbery. However, as soon as they thought that their safety in the mystery land was guaranteed in the future, their hearts suddenly calmed down. This was probably the so-called spending money to avoid disaster. Thanks. After settling them down, Fengde and the others began to prepare dinner. An indescribable fragrance soon filled the air. Although the Yao family elder and the others were some distance away from the garden, the delicious smell of the food still drifted into their noses. Immediately, some people's stomachs reacted uncontrollably and began to growl. This wasn't to say that they were hungry. After all, their cultivation levels weren't low, so it didn't matter if they didn't eat. However, they had all cultivated from ordinary people to deities. As a result, the deliciousness of this food still caused their stomachs to have a strong reaction. Many people couldn't help but sniffle with all their might, and some people even had suspicious liquid flowing out of the corners of their mouths. All of you better be a little more promising. Seeing them like this, the Yao family elder growled in a low voice. However, no one was willing to listen to him at this time. Even a divine venerable couldn't resist the temptation of delicious food, let alone these people who weren't divine venerables. His self-control was naturally not as good. As the fragrance grew stronger, some people couldn't stand it anymore and stood up, heading straight for the garden. After a long time, the people who had gone to the garden returned with a look of satisfaction on their faces. Seeing this, more and more people gave up their reservations and ran to the garden. In this way, a few hours passed. Everyone present, except the Yao family elder, couldn't resist the temptation of food and went to pay for it. However, it was conceivable that the food fee they paid this time would not be cheap. Elder Yao, it's such a pity that you didn't go, AI. The taste of the food was too good. I've lived for so long, but I've never eaten such delicious food. My life has not been in vain. The person closest to Elder Yao sighed. He had thought that he was dead for sure. Unexpectedly, not only was he saved, but he was also able to eat delicious food that he had never eaten before. It was worth it. It was really worth it, even though they had to spend a lot of money. However, he didn't have to worry about his debts. At most, he could pay them back slowly. You guys are really rich. The Yao clan elder said sinisterly. His expression was as unsightly as the bottom of a pot, and he couldn't help but curse in his heart. These people were really too embarrassing. So what if they hadn't eaten roasted food before? In fact, when he smelled the smell, he knew that the other party was roasting food. When they were outside for experience training in the past, the most common way to deal with food was to roast it. Therefore, he did not think that there was anything surprising about roasted food. However, these disgraceful guys were actually so eager to roast food. How could this not make him angry? Elder Yao, this money was well spent. We didn't eat to fill our stomachs, but to satisfy our appetites. Now our wish has come true. Although we spent some money, the food was indeed delicious. To be honest, I've roasted food before, but the taste can't compare with other people's food. This was the difference. If you don't believe me, you can also go and pay for it. That person advised. Words were not proof. He felt that it was best to let the Yao family's elder personally experience it. At that time, Elder Yao would understand their feelings. I don't have that much money, the Yao family elder said in a bad mood. He wouldn't fall for those people's tricks. Seeing this, the man stopped talking. However, he couldn't help but think in his heart, how could the Yao family not have money? Who would believe this? One had to know that at least half of the wealth in the divine realm was controlled by the 8 great divine regions. Now, the Yao family elder actually said that he had no money. Wasn't this making fun of him? If you can't bear it, just say it, but why did you have to say you don't have money? Who are you trying to fool? Following that, everyone closed their eyes to rest. Those who wanted to respond to the Yao family elder all tactfully shut their mouths to avoid stirring up a stomach full of idle talk. For a moment, The atmosphere was extremely serious by the Yao family elder. Chapter 1763, Luring the Tiger Out of the Mountain, 2. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue was in the living room, listening to Feng Die's report on the situation in the garden. Miss, other than that old man from the Yao family, everyone else is buying food from us. Feng De said happily. This was another big income. Oh, the Yao family has always been like this. Leng Ruoxue said disapprovingly. Yes, yes. Feng De quickly nodded. He would make more delicious food tomorrow. He didn't believe that he couldn't get money from the Yao family elder's pocket. Feng De, I will leave this place with Uncle Long and the evildoer tomorrow. However, for your safety, I will set the rule that you can only leave and not enter this house. If anyone tries to cause trouble, you can just clean it up. The beasts in the endless ocean will help you. Leng Ruoxue told Feng De about her arrangements. Feng De frowned and said, Miss, are you going to find Master Ning and the others? Bring me along. I'm not bringing anyone but Uncle Long and the demon. Feng De, I've left you here to lower the guards of the men in black. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been easy for us to leave. With you here, the men in black will be more at ease. As long as you don't take the initiative to go out, you won't be in danger. Leng Ruoxue reminded. She had already thought of everything for Feng De and the others. All right then. Although Feng De was a little reluctant, he still nodded. Miss, are you guys coming back tonight? Then Feng De asked. I don't think so. Don't worry about us. It'll be at ease as long as you take care of yourselves. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Don't worry, miss. We'll take care of ourselves. Feng De promised. That's good. As for my departure, don't let too many people know about it. Just say that I'm in seclusion to refine pills. Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. N. Feng De nodded. After that, Leng Ruoxue instructed Feng De on some other matters before letting him leave with a peace of mind. The next day, Leng Ruoxue, the demon, and Uncle Long then turned invisible and left. After walking out of the valley for a distance, Leng Ruoxue gave each of them a disguise pill. After they ate it, the three of them appeared in the mystic realm with the appearance of strangers. Little girl, your disguise pill is really amazing. Even my aura has changed. A mirror appeared in Uncle Long's hand and he said in surprise. However, when he saw the ugliest face in the mirror, he felt depressed again. Although his appearance could not be compared to that of a demon, he was still considered a handsome uncle. In this situation, he probably didn't even need to do anything to scare off a group of people. Leng Ruoxue, who was at the side, saw that the usually tough Uncle Long had actually taken out a mirror to look at himself. Instantly, her forehead was filled with black lines. She didn't expect that Uncle Long was also a fan of beauty. One must know that the beasts in this world rarely prepared a mirror for themselves. At most, they would only look at themselves in the river. For Uncle Long to act like this, it really made her fall into a mirror. What's wrong? Are you surprised? Back in the day, Uncle Long was also a handsome man when he was young. I don't know how many female beasts liked me. Uncle Long's torch-like eyes seemed to reveal a trace of nostalgia. I've never doubted Uncle Long's charm. There will be many female beasts who will like Uncle Long now. Even though Leng Ruoxue was sweating profusely, she still replied in a cooperative manner. Thanks, little girl, you have good taste. However, Uncle Long's standards are extremely high, and he won't take a fancy to those ordinary beasts. Uncle Long said in a good mood. Seeing this, Leng Ruoxue could not help but sigh. A man's heart was truly like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Uncle Long, who had been frowning a moment ago, suddenly changed his expression because of her words. The speed at which he changed his expression was faster than turning the pages of a book. When he saw Leng Ruoxue looking at him helplessly, Uncle Long's smile grew wider. Then, the three of them continued on their way. At night, Leng Ruoxue immediately brought the evildoer and Uncle Long into the bracelet. In fact, she was willing to bring Uncle Long in because she had thought about it carefully. After all, she trusted her judgment of people. Moreover, Uncle Long was not a human. If a human would covet her ring, The beasts would definitely not have such thoughts. This was also the main reason why she was more friendly to the beasts. Uncle Long wasn't used to the change of location, but when he saw the strong spiritual chi in the bracelet, he was ecstatic. This was really a good place for cultivation. However, he was already a reverent god, so the strong spiritual chi here didn't seem to have much effect on him. However, to be able to live in such a place with strong spiritual chi was a very comfortable and wonderful thing for them. Turning around, Uncle Long looked at Leng Ruoxue with a face full of joy. He could not help but ask, "Little girl, where are we?" He knew that this little girl wasn't simple. Now, it seemed that his decision to follow her was really wise. This is naturally also the space of one of my divine artifacts. Leng Ruoxue deliberately kept him in suspense. "I'm afraid that house can't compare to this divine artifact." Uncle Long understood. Although they were all spatial-type divine artifacts, there were also high and low-quality ones. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Little girl, Uncle Long knew that following you was the right thing to do. There are so many houses there, so Uncle Long, he'll just pick one to live in." Uncle Long was an experienced man. Since Leng Ruoxue was willing to bring him in, he knew that this little lass didn't treat him as an outsider. Hence, he didn't stand on ceremony with Leng Ruoxue. However, he wouldn't ask what he shouldn't ask. However, Leng Ruoxue's actions had warmed his cold heart. This little girl was one of the most impressive humans he had ever seen. "Uncle Long, those houses have owners and I've already ordered my spirit beasts to build a new house for you. I'll have them take you there," Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Good. When Uncle Long heard that all the houses had owners, he was disappointed. However, when he heard that Leng Ruoxue had built a new house for him, his face lit up with joy. Following that, a small silver wolf the size of a palm ran over happily. It rubbed against Leng Ruoxue's leg affectionately and brought Uncle Long to see the room. Not long after, Uncle Long returned with a satisfied look on his face. "Little girl, I really like the room." "Thank you," Uncle Long said with a smile. That smile was definitely from the bottom of his heart. "Uncle Long, I also helped to build the house." The little silver wolf in Uncle Long's arms said in a slightly coquettish manner. Uncle Long knows." "Thank you, little Fong Fong." Uncle Long stroked the silver wolf's soft fur and said affectionately. He did not expect to see so many magical beasts here, including the Phoenix clan and the Dragon clan, the two king divine beast clans of the divinity. At that moment, Leng Ruoxue's status in his heart rose by quite a bit. Chapter 1764, Luring the Tiger Out of the Mountain, 3. The silver wolf giggled, then jumped down from Uncle Long's arms and went to play. "Little girl, you really surprise me." Uncle Long sighed. He had thought that the three of them would have to sleep in the wilderness. Who would have thought that Leng Ruoxue would give him such a pleasant surprise? "All right, little girl, do all the beasts here belong to you?" Uncle Long asked curiously. They're all my beastie." Leng Ruoxue did not deny it. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Uncle Long sized her up in disbelief. His gaze made her heart tremble. Half a moment. Uncle Long widened his eyes and asked in disbelief, "How did you manage to contract so many beastie?" From what he knew, contracting a spiritual beast required a lot of mental energy. Hence, there was a limit to the number of spiritual beasts that a human could contract. He had lived for so long and had never seen a human like Leng Ruoxue who could contract so many spiritual beasts without limit. How terrifying was her mental energy? He simply didn't dare to imagine. "I don't know," Leng Ruoxue answered honestly. Most of her spiritual beasts had delivered themselves to her doorstep, so it did not take much effort for her to keep them. However, she also knew that contracting a spiritual beast required a huge amount of mental energy. However, she did not feel that her mental energy had reached its limit, so she had more and more spiritual beasts. After hearing this, Uncle Long kept blinking his eyes, not knowing what to say. What's the big deal? Big sister's aptitude isn't something ordinary people can compare to." At this moment, Ju's voice rang in the ears of the three of them. Then, a chubby little child appeared. All right, I admit that this little girl is a pervert, okay? But who are you? Uncle Long asked with great interest as he looked at Ju, who was acting like an adult. I'm the manager of this space, which means I'm the spirit of this divine artifact. Ju said proudly. When Uncle Long heard Ju's arrogant words, he carefully sized him up from head to toe. Then he even poked Ju's pink and tender little face with his finger. He sighed and said, "It feels exactly the same as a real baby. What else do you think?" Ju's face darkened, and he was obviously a little unhappy. So, he was being taken advantage of by the strange uncle. I won't tell you that this is my first time seeing an artifact spirit, Uncle Long said, a little embarrassed. Hearing Uncle Long's words, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but purse her lips and snicker. Uncle Long was actually getting more and more humorous. It doesn't matter. Your reaction is very normal. I won't laugh at you. Ju said very seriously. That's good. Uncle Long coaxed. After that, he pretended to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It really wasn't easy to coax a little doll. Seeing the interaction between Uncle Long and Ju, Lung Ruoxue did not disturb them. Instead, she pulled the evildoer and left quietly. Meanwhile, Uncle Long, accompanied by Ju, the local tyrant, started to tour the entire space. Everywhere they went, Uncle Long was like a Granny Lou who had entered a Grand View garden. He couldn't even see enough. After a round, he felt deeply inferior and felt that his choice was wise. There were so many good things in here that it was dazzling. In the end, Ju even patted Uncle Long's shoulder and comforted him. Don't be sad. Your reaction is better than others. You don't have to feel inferior. Uncle Long nodded and scurried into his room. He faced the wall and pondered. The next morning, they continued their journey. After searching for a long time, they finally found a house in the evening half a month later by an unremarkable, almost dried-up stream. He observed the house from afar. From the outside, it looked no different from the one that Lung Ruoxue owned. From the refinement technique, Lung Ruoxue could also tell that it was refined by the Grand Elder. However, the area of the house in front of her didn't look very big, and the height of the house was only about 1 meter. However, Lung Ruoxue knew that this was just a smokescreen. The Grand Elder's actions were probably afraid of attracting the attention of the black-robed men in the mystic realm, which was why he kept such a low profile. But even so, the house was still surrounded by fierce monsters. Fortunately, these monsters did not have much intelligence. They were more like battle machines. Hence, the first elder and the rest were able to hide here safely without being discovered by the men in black. However, the moment she thought of the hidden spy beside them, Lung Ruoxue's heart began to race again. Little girl, this house is similar to yours. The person we're looking for should be here. Uncle Long said with uncertainty. Thanks, Lung Ruoxue nodded. Even though she wasn't too sure, she knew that the Grand Elder had elemental breath. Hence, it wouldn't be difficult for him to create a spatial god tool that could accommodate people. Then let's go in and find her, Uncle Long urged. He was extremely annoyed when he saw these monsters. He couldn't help but think of the black-clothed men who had been sucked dry. Therefore, he couldn't wait to leave this place. Uncle Long, evildoer, you guys go and contact the people in the house. I'll go and lure those monsters away. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. No, it's too dangerous. I'll go and draw the monsters away. Uncle Long retorted. In her opinion, Lung Ruoxue was the weakest among the three of them. Furthermore, she was a girl. How could he, a reverent god, allow a little girl to do such a thing? If word of this got out, he would be looked down upon by many beastie. More importantly, he could not bear for Lung Ruoxue to take this risk. After all, he truly treated Lung Ruoxue as a junior of his family. Hence, he would not let Lung Ruoxue go. Uncle Long, only my flames can cause damage to these monsters. Moreover, I still have room to save my life. Therefore, no one is more suitable than me for this task. So, you can rest assured. I know what I'm doing. Leng Ruoxue promised. Her words left Uncle Long speechless because what Leng Ruoxue said was the truth. In terms of life-saving methods, he was indeed no match for her. Shui, be careful, the demon warned. Although he didn't want Shui to take the risk, he knew that Leng Ruoxue was a woman of her word. He couldn't stop her. Don't worry. I won't risk my life. After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she used her divine power to create a fiery red dragon. Then, she jumped onto the dragon's back and flew towards the direction where the monsters were gathering. The monsters that had gathered outside the house had discovered a new target and immediately left to chase after Leng Ruoxue. How can you also let the little girl do such a thing? As he watched Leng Ruoxue's back view, Uncle Long was a little annoyed. He had thought that this devilish man who cared a lot about this little girl would stop him. Who knew that he only told her to be careful? Once Shui has decided on something, she won't easily change her mind. The demon said, but in his heart, he was thinking, if it wasn't for the fact that the great elder and the others didn't recognize you, I wouldn't have to be here accompanying you. But we can still approach the house invisibly. Uncle Long couldn't help but ask. It's a critical time right now. If we go in stealth, the people in the house won't believe us. If we don't, we'll alert a large number of monsters. When we want to enter the house, I'm afraid the people inside won't dare to open the door for us. So, luring the tiger away from the mountain is the best way. The demon said. No one dared to take the risk at this moment. All right, you're right. Uncle Long was a little dejected, but he still followed behind the evildoer and slowly approached the house. As he got closer to the house, the demon knocked on the door gently. However, there was no movement from inside. Seeing this, the demon continued to knock. However, because of his knocking, the people in the house were like birds startled by the twang of a bow, their faces pale. At this moment, apart from a few of them who were recuperating in their rooms due to their severe injuries, the rest of them were all hiding in the garden, not daring to pay attention to the movements outside. Go and see who is knocking on the door. At this time, the master of the Yin family, whose face was a little pale, ordered. However, no one carried out his words. I can't order you around anymore, can I? Looking at the motionless crowd, the master of the Yin family exploded in anger and roared again. Master Yin, there's no need to look anymore. Those monsters must be trying to trick us out, so they're deliberately making some noise. An elder of the Chung family said in fear. Fuck, your monster would knock on the door so politely? The master of the Yin family was so angry that he really wanted to throw this embarrassing elder of the Chung family out. Unfortunately, this guy wasn't a member of the Yin family. Otherwise, he would definitely teach him a good lesson. This must be a new trick that the monsters came up with to trick us out. The elder from the Chung clan said stubbornly. Fucking disappear from my sight right now, or I don't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of Old Man Cheng. After hearing the Chung clan's elder's words, the Yin clan's master couldn't take it anymore and roared. After he finished speaking, he walked toward the door in a huff. If these timid guys couldn't be ordered, then he would go personally. When the others saw this, they quietly followed behind him. At the door, Master Yin frowned and shouted, Who is it? You dare to knock on the door. Chapter 1765, Violent Uncle Dragon, 1. When the demon heard this voice, he was stunned for a moment. Then he said loudly, Old Man Yin, quickly open the door. Who are you? When the master of the Yin family saw that the other party recognized him, he suddenly became alarmed. However, out of caution, he naturally would not open the door casually. Otherwise, the monsters that had been guarding outside would rush in without hesitation. At that time, their lives would be in danger. However, this name was really familiar. My surname is Yi. Have you forgotten? The demon laughed coldly. He was still resentful of what the master of the Yin family had done in the past. Knight. The master of the Yin family frowned and thought. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and remembered who this guy was. Isn't that the robber surnamed Yi? What was he doing here? Since you remember, quickly open the door. The demon said impatiently. Oh. The master of the Een family nodded in embarrassment. He couldn't afford to offend this guy. However, just as the master of the Een family was about to open the door, he was stopped by the person behind him. Master Een, you can't open the door. The elder of the Chung family said. Why can't I? I know him. The master of the Een family said unhappily. He was trapped here. Was he being too easy to talk to? Otherwise, why did none of them take him seriously? In fact, he had overthought it. He still had a supreme position in these people's hearts. However, these people were too concerned about their lives. Therefore, as long as there was a slight movement, they would be extremely nervous. Moreover, at this time, they could not care about the strong being respected. They were about to lose their lives, so what was the use of pursuing the strong? Moreover, the patriarchs of the 8 great divine regions, who were usually high and mighty, had no way to deal with this matter. As a result, the words of the patriarchs were not as intimidating as they usually were. Master Een, even if you know him, you can't risk the lives of so many people. There are so many monsters out there. If you open the door and let him in, what if those monsters come in as well? What should we do then? The elder from the Chung family said worriedly. The others quickly chimed in after hearing his words. Master Een, you have to consider all of us. This is the only place we can settle down in the secret plane. We can't let those monsters occupy it, otherwise, we'll really be dead. Another person worriedly said. Fuck. Open the door, we're here to save you. Before the master of the Een family could say anything, Uncle Long, who was standing outside the door, couldn't help but roar. These people really didn't know what was good for them. The little girl risked her life to save them, but they didn't know how to be grateful. They even wanted to shut them out for their own lives. This was outrageous. If it wasn't for the little girl's life-saving means and her ability to deal with these monsters, the 3 of them would have long become the stomachs of these monsters. The more Uncle Long thought about it, the angrier he got. If they weren't separated by a door, he would have cut those guys who had just spoken into pieces. He saved us? You obviously came to us because you saw that we had a way to save our lives, but you still have the cheek to say that you're here to save us. Your skin is really thick. That person continued. You? Who the fuck are you? If you have the guts, report your name. Hearing this, Uncle Long was instantly enraged. Now, he truly felt that it was not worth it for the little girl to come and save them. What do you want to do? Sensing the hostility in the other party's tone, the person said with a trembling voice. You shut up. At this time, the master of the Een family couldn't take it anymore and shouted. The man didn't fear Uncle Long, but he couldn't ignore the master of the Een family. Therefore he kept his mouth shut. Thanks, old man Een, open the door quickly. Otherwise, you can just live and die here. After listening to the lively atmosphere, the evildoer said with a smile that was not a smile. These people had already exhausted his patience. At the same time, he was worried about Lung Ruox's safety. Hence, he did not want to waste any more time with them. If they still did not open the door, he would have to leave with Uncle Long. Oh, wait a moment. This time, the master of the Een family moved very quickly. He didn't give the others a chance to react before he opened the door. Seeing this, Uncle Long entered in a flash, while the demon turned and left. Why did he leave? Master Een asked in confusion as he watched the back of the evildoer and closed the door. He was worried about the little girl's safety, so he went to look for her. Uncle Long said honestly. Although the kid didn't tell him, he knew. You guys, Master Een stuttered. Actually, he wanted to ask, who are you guys? And how did that ye brat become ugly? If he didn't know that no one here would pretend to be ye, and no one knew how they got along, he would have suspected that this guy was a fake. You can call me Uncle Long. I'm the little girl's man. Uncle Long could tell that the master of the Een family was in a dilemma. However, the master of the Een family was a little unhappy when he called him Uncle Long. This guy actually wanted her to call him Uncle Long. This was clearly taking advantage of her. This was really too much. However, who was the little girl he was talking about? Excuse me, who is the little girl you're talking about? After thinking for a while, Master Een asked the question in his heart. The little girl is Lung Ruoxue. The Ning family head and the others all know him. Uncle Long said lightly. Ugh. The master of the Yin family lowered his head. Could he say that he also knew that little devil? However, when he heard from the other party that it was Lung Ruoxue, his heart was completely at ease. Where did that little girl go? The master of the Yin family asked. She went to draw the monsters away. Otherwise, she would attract the monsters' attention if she got close to the house. Uncle Long said matter-of-factly, but the worry in his eyes disappeared. After all, he treated Lung Ruoxue as his junior. No matter how capable his own child was, she was still a child in his eyes. No wonder. The master of the Yin family sighed. He didn't know what to say. Even a little girl dared to do this, but they, the men, could only hide here. This fact made him feel quite aggrieved. Uncle Long glanced at the master of the Yin family and turned to the others. Who was the one who told us not to come in? And you said that we would bring you danger? When Uncle Long said this, his eyes were very unfriendly and his expression was very ugly. Not only that, but he also deliberately released a trace of pressure. Instantly, those who had been frightened like birds felt endless pressure. At this time, if they still didn't know that Uncle Long's strength was more than a little bit higher than theirs, they would have lived all these years in vain. Chapter 1766, Violent Uncle Dragon. 2. In an instant, fear, regret, and countless other emotions flashed through everyone's hearts. Moreover, they knew that this was the time when they needed top-class experts the most, so they did not dare to take Uncle Long's words lightly. It was an elder of the Cheng and Yao families who told me. After weighing the pros and cons, some people quickly betrayed the two people who had spoken just now, while more people were extremely glad that they hadn't said anything that they shouldn't have. Otherwise, this Uncle Long would definitely not let them off. Thinking of this, everyone quietly distanced themselves from the two elders of the Cheng and Yao families. And Uncle Long didn't let down his heavy gaze. He grabbed the two elders of the Cheng and Yao families, who were standing upright like cranes among chickens, and walked toward a corner. Not long after, a pig-like howl came from the corner. Arg! Ah! Murder! Help me! Arg! Don't hit me! I was wrong! I was wrong! Everyone looked up at the sky in unison when they heard the scream. This was not the time for them to make a sound, but Uncle Long's violent image had been deeply engraved in their hearts. Immediately, everyone decided that they could not afford to offend Uncle Long. After a long time, when the Yao and Chung families' two elders crawled out from the corner, everyone couldn't help but widen their eyes in shock, looking at the two people in front of them in disbelief. Were these two really the two elders from before? Although these two elders were not extraordinarily handsome, they were at least decent looking. But now, they were clearly pigs waiting to be slaughtered. Moreover, they were quite fat. Not only were they covered in wounds, but their bodies were also round and fat. They were 2 times fatter. Seeing the two's new appearance, everyone looked at Uncle Long with a complicated expression. The reality in front of them made them speechless and flabbergasted. Uncle Long found a seat and sat down. He took out a small table from his storage ring and placed it in front of him. Then he placed a teacup and a teapot on the table and began to slowly enjoy the tea. As he sipped the tea in his hand, he observed their reactions. When everyone saw how relaxed and comfortable he was, they all felt a mix of emotions, jealousy, envy, and hatred. Look at him, he was also in the mystic realm, but he was living a good life. On the other hand, even though they were trapped here, they were still very afraid and didn't dare to let their guard down. So, it was infuriating to compare. Master Yin, this tea was prepared by my little girl. Do you want to try it? After a long while, Uncle Long spoke. All right. The master of the Yin family couldn't ask for more. His biggest hobby was drinking tea, and now that he smelled the tea, he was already tempted. However, he wasn't close to Uncle Long, so he didn't ask for it. He walked to Uncle Long's side and sat down. Uncle Long took out a jade teacup from his storage ring and poured a cup of tea for the Yin family's master. After that, he didn't say anything else. The Yin family's master, who had the tea to drink, ignored the looks everyone gave him, and silently drank it. After an unknown amount of time, Uncle Long's tea was almost finished. Then he took out a steaming, oily roast chicken from his ring and generously gave half of it to the Yin family's master. When everyone smelled the aroma of the roast chicken, they unconsciously swallowed their saliva. However, no one dared to approach him. "What a fragrant roast chicken! Can you share some with me?" At this time, a slightly low voice rang in everyone's ears. When everyone heard this voice, they all consciously made way for him. "Thanks, old man Ning. Why did you come out? Quickly go back to your room." The master of the Yin family immediately said in dissatisfaction after seeing the owner of the voice. "I came out because of the fragrance. But do you want to take all the food for yourself?" The master of the Ning family said with some dissatisfaction. "You ungrateful brat, I'm doing this for your own good." The master of the Yin family was a little angry. "I want to eat roast chicken. It tastes just like the one my precious daughter makes." The master of the Ning family, who had been attracted by the fragrance, walked to Uncle Long and said with a drooling face. He had been in the room and hadn't paid attention to the situation outside, so he didn't know what had just happened. "You're the master of the Ning family? You're injured." Uncle Long's eyes were like torches as he said this. As he spoke, he handed over the roast chicken in his hand. The master of the Ning family unceremoniously took the fragrant chicken and took a big bite. Then he frowned and said, "I was slightly injured." "It's not just similar, the taste is exactly the same." He was a little confused. Was there something wrong with his taste? Otherwise, how could he smell the food that Schwer made? This was really abnormal. Because this was all caused by Schwer. Uncle Long said with a smile. He had heard a lot about the master of the Ning family and knew that he was a protective guy. He had a good impression of the master of the Ning family today, and he even missed the little girl here. It could be seen that he really loved the little girl, and the little girl had risked her life to save him in vain. What? The master of the Ning family was shocked, and his already pale face became paler. "Old thing, you can't be excited. Quickly calm down." Sensing Master Ning's excitement, Master Yin said worriedly, "I'm fine. Don't be so nervous." The master of the Ning family didn't want to be treated like a patient, so when he heard Master Yin's words, he immediately exploded. Although the other party had good intentions, he couldn't appreciate it. You ungrateful old man. I'm not going to care about you anymore, all right?" The Yin family's master's temper also rose. "I didn't ask you to care about it." The master of the Ning family couldn't help but mumble. Then, he grabbed Uncle Long's arm tightly and asked nervously, "What did you just say? Who made this chicken?" He was afraid that he had heard wrong. "This chicken was made by Lung Ruoxue." Uncle Long laughed evilly. He didn't expect that the master of the Ning family would find out about it with just a chicken. "Are you sure?" Master Ning was still in disbelief. I'm sure. This chicken was personally prepared by Schwer, and I heard that she's your goddaughter, right?" Uncle Long asked despite knowing the answer. That's right. She's my goddaughter. But why don't I know you? Also, where's Schwer?" The Ning family's master asked a few questions in a row, making Uncle Long not know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect that the moment Lung Ruoxue was mentioned, this fellow would become so nervous. There were so many questions, which one should he answer first? That little girl is now in this secret realm, and we met in the endless sea. Uncle Long thought for a while and decided to pick the most important part so that he wouldn't make this guy anxious to death. Chapter 1767, Violent Uncle Dragon, 3. Little Schwer has also come to the secret realm? Damn it. Who asked her to come? Hearing Uncle Long's words, the master of the Ning family suddenly became anxious. Like an ant in a hot pot, he kept walking around and drawing circles on the ground. "She came here to save you. Besides, she's much safer than you in this secret realm." Uncle Long couldn't help but say, although he knew that his words might strike a blow to these experts of the divine realm. Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, some people became dissatisfied. "Senior, aren't your words biased? Although we are trapped in this secret realm, the weakest among us is a divine emperor. I wonder what is the cultivation level of the little girl you speak of? The person who spoke was also an elder of the Yao family. Moreover, his face carried a trace of dissatisfaction. So what if he's a divine emperor? You guys don't even dare to leave this house, do you? However, in order to find you, the three of us almost turned this secret realm upside down. If it were you, would you dare to do the same? Uncle Long sneered. That's because she has a senior protecting her. The Yao family elders said stubbornly. You're wrong. I'm not the one protecting her, she's the one who's been protecting me. Uncle Long told the truth, but that was all he had to say. As for the little girl's methods and the damage she could cause to the monsters here, he didn't intend to say it in public. After all, they didn't know who the enemy's hidden chess piece was. They couldn't let their guard down as long as they didn't find the person. How is this possible? The Yao family elder obviously didn't believe him. It's up to you to believe it or not. Uncle Long said coldly. After that, he no longer paid any attention to the Yao family. However, in his heart, the Yao family had become a synonym for disgust and had been blacklisted by him. At this time, the master of the Ning family took the initiative to pull Uncle Long into his room. May I know how to address you? The master of the Ning family asked very politely after closing the door. The little girl calls me Uncle Long. Uncle Long said after thinking for a while. Oh, Brother Long, can you tell me more about Shuer? The master of the Ning family said humbly. He completely believed Uncle Long's words, but he still had to confirm it. Sure. Uncle Long nodded, then told him everything about how they met and what they had experienced in the secret realm. After hearing it, the master of the Ning family was silent for a long time. I was too arrogant and caused trouble for Shuer. After a long while, the master of the Ning family sighed. Don't be arrogant and don't cause any trouble. That's all in the past, so there's no point in talking about it. You'd better think about how to explain your injury to the little girl. If I'm not wrong, your injuries are not light. Uncle Long reminded her kindly. Even though he had not spent much time with Leng Ruoxue, he knew very well that this little girl was very protective of her own people. If she knew that her godfather had been seriously injured, she would probably fly into a rage. After hearing Uncle Long's words, the master of the Ning family sighed helplessly. How could he not have thought of what Uncle Long had thought of? He didn't dare to see Shuer anymore. He could hide. It's useless to be a coward. You can't hide forever. Seeing through Master Ning's thoughts, Uncle Long said speechlessly, why is the master of the Ning family so afraid of a little girl? Brother Long, you don't understand. When that girl is angry, she's really terrifying. The master of the Ning family said fearfully. Then you're on your own. Uncle Long said with a hint of sympathy. Brother Long, you can't just leave me in the lurch. The master of the Ning family begged with a bitter face. Master Ning, I'm just living under someone else's roof. My words don't hold any weight in this little girl's heart. So, don't make things difficult for me. Uncle Long replied with a bitter face. Brother Long, the master of the Ning family continued to call. Master Ning, I really can't do anything. You'd better think about how to explain it to the little girl. I think she should be here soon. Uncle Long reminded him with a look of sympathy. After saying that, Uncle Long slipped away. Looking at Uncle Long's back, the master of the Ning family sat down on the chair, frowning. Old man Ning, I heard that Shuer is here. Where is she? At this time, the head elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters pushed the door open and entered. He had originally been recuperating in his room, but after hearing the news, he had hurried over. Thanks, he's not here yet. However, I'll be soon. The master of the Ning family said weakly. What's the meaning of this? The great elder's face was filled with question marks. Shuer came into the secret realm to save us. However, she saw that we were surrounded by monsters, so she went to draw them away. The person who came in was with her. The master of the Ning family explained, and the great elder became anxious when he heard this. What? Did Shuer go to draw away those monsters? How could this be? I have to go out and save her. The great elder quickly said. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked out. Wait, don't drag that little girl Schwer down. She can handle those monsters. Seeing this, the master of the Ning family quickly called out to the great elder. What did you just say? The first elder couldn't help but widen his eyes at Master Ning's words. Did he hear it wrong? Could Schwer deal with those monsters? I was saying that Schwer could deal with those monsters. Do you still remember her flames? The master of the Ning family reminded. There's too much. The great elder nodded his head. Not to mention having an impression, Schwer's flames had left such a deep impression on him that he could not forget them even if he wanted to. Those flames are the monster's nemesis. So, we have hope of leaving this place. The master of the Ning family said faintly. This is great. First elder was very happy. This was simply not a place for humans to stay. Don't be happy too early. Now that both of us are injured, if Schwer finds out, we'll be in trouble. The master of the Ning family saw that the great elder was overjoyed, so he could only remind him of the matter that the two of them were about to face. Well, you're Schwer's godfather. It's only natural for her to be angry because you're injured, but, the great elder stammered, but he could not finish his sentence. In fact, what he wanted to say was, you're her godfather, and am not anyone to her. I've wanted to acknowledge her as my godgranddaughter. So, am not related to her at all. Even if she wants to get angry, she can't do it to me. However, he couldn't say it out loud, because he knew very well that Schwer treated him the same way she treated Old Man Ning. The reason she didn't acknowledge him as her godgrandfather was because of Old Man Ning's face. It seemed like he couldn't escape Schwer's anger. But don't think that you can escape just because Schwer didn't acknowledge you as her godgrandfather. Let me tell you, there's no way you can escape. You have to suffer with me. The master of the Ning family and the great elder had known each other for many years, so how could he not know what the great elder was thinking? However, if the old man thought that he could avoid Schwer's anger by doing this, then he was wrong. Then what should we do? Hearing this, first elder was like a frosted eggplant, wilting. I don't know. The master of the Ning family was also listless. Why don't we go and look for Shinua? Let's see if he has any pills that can help us disguise ourselves. After a long time, first elder came up with an idea. Will this work? What if we're exposed? The master of the Ning family was a little hesitant. If Schwer found out that they had faked their injuries to hide them, she would probably be even angrier. Then you can just tell me the truth. The first elder said with slight disdain. This old thing didn't dare to speak the truth and was afraid of being exposed. How could everything go as he wished? No, I can't say. The master of the Ning family shook his head, and then said pitifully, let's go and look for Shinua. He might have a way. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. The first elder urged, and after he finished speaking, the two of them headed straight for Shinua's room. At this moment, Shinua, who was in the room, was fiddling with the medicinal herbs in her hands. When she saw the two of them, she stood up with a disapproving look on her face. You guys ran around again. Didn't I say that you have to stay in your rooms to recuperate? As an alchemist, he hated disobedient patients the most. We have something to discuss with you. The master of the Ning family said, slightly embarrassed. After that, he quickly explained the reason for their visit to Shinua. After Shinua heard it, she frowned, but she still took out 2 pale yellow pills from her storage ring and passed them to them. It's impossible to completely hide your injuries, but these 2 pills can make you look better. Shinua explained. It seems like this is the only way. Although Master Ning was a little disappointed, it was better to look better than to be pale. After taking the pills, Master Ning and the Grand Elder specially went to remind the others not to tell Lung Ruoxue about their injuries. After making all the necessary arrangements, they waited for Lung Ruoxue and the demon to come knocking on their door. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had already lured those monsters to a place 10,000 miles away. However, she did not kill those monsters to avoid attracting the attention of the men in black in the secret realm. After she turned invisible and returned, She met the demon who came to her rescue halfway. The two of them met up and returned to the house together. At this time, the sky was already bright. Chapter 1768. Looking for Trouble? 1. Walking to the front of the house, the evildoers started knocking on the door again. This time, the people inside the house heard the knocking and quickly ran over. After all, they were already mentally prepared that there would be more people coming. Furthermore, Uncle Long was still watching them from the side. They didn't dare to take their time. Who is it? The voice in the room asked in a trembling voice. My surname is Lung. When Lung Ruoshua heard his trembling voice, she actually felt like laughing. However, when she recalled what the evildoer had said to her, she put on a straight face again. Because the evildoer had already complained to her. Hurry up and open the door, stop talking so much nonsense. At this moment, Uncle Long's loud and clear voice came from the house again. Yes, yes. The person in the house hurriedly said in fear. Then, he opened the door a crack and stuck his head out from inside, urging, Quickly come in. Don't let the monster find out. Lung Ruoshue and the evildoer exchanged glances and walked into the house. Little girl, did you run into any trouble? When Uncle Long saw Lung Ruoshue, he sized her up and asked with concern. No, I didn't. Lung Ruoshue said softly. Then, she turned her beautiful eyes to the person who had opened the door for her and asked curiously, Whose family are you from? Wasn't this person a little too timid? She was a divine emperor after all, yet she was actually so afraid. It was really embarrassing. Lung Ruoshue could not help but lament in her heart. Ha! Little girl, he's an elder of the Wen family. Hearing Lung Ruoshue's words, Uncle Long laughed out loud. I see. Lung Ruoshue nodded and stopped staring at the trembling elder of the Wen family so as not to scare him into fainting. However, if such a timid fellow were to become an elder, the Wen family would not have much development. Uncle Long, have you seen Godfather and the Great Elder? Lung Ruoshue looked at Uncle Long and asked. I've seen him. Uncle Long wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't expose the two guys who were lying. Forget it, he'd just pretend that he didn't know about it. No one told him anyway. Where are they? Are you all right? Lung Ruoshue asked worriedly. Swear we're here. At this moment, Master Ning and First Elder, who had already come out of the room, had also arrived at the door. When they saw Lung Ruoshue, they spoke excitedly. Godfather, Great Elder. When Lung Ruoshue saw the two of them, she was very happy. Furthermore, they looked to be in good shape, so her heart that had been hanging in the air was finally at ease. Swear, we willfully came to this mystic realm and now we have to trouble you to save us. We are really sorry. The First Elder said in embarrassment. Great Elder, what's the point of saying all this now? Besides, as long as you're safe and sound, it doesn't matter if I'm in trouble. Lung Ruoshue said helplessly. Shui was right, old man. Since you're already here, why are you so conflicted? Let's just treat this as a vacation. The master of the Ning family was very open-minded, but as soon as he finished speaking, he received a sharp glare from the First Elder. Thanks, in fact, there was a reason why the Great Elder said that. After all, it was better to lower his stance and be polite now than to let this little girl take revenge after he was exposed, right? Moreover, with his understanding of this girl, he was very clear that if the things that he and Old Man Ning had hidden were exposed, this little girl would definitely not let them off easily. So, acting pitiful was the right way now. Who knew that old thing would actually? However, he had already said it, and he couldn't take it back even if he wanted to. Therefore, he could only keep staring at the master of the Ning family and use his eyes to signal him not to talk nonsense. The master of the Ning family also understood the meaning of the Great Elder and could only shut his mouth in embarrassment. Lung Ruoshue felt suspicious when she saw Godfather and Great Elder's flirtatious interaction with their brows furrowed. Her instincts told her that these two villains were hiding something from her. However, since they were not willing to tell her, she would not force them. She would just have to see how long they could keep up the act. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoshue smiled faintly and said, Godfather and Great Elder must not have had a good rest during this period of time, right? You guys should go back to your rooms and rest. I'm just taking a walk around here. Let this elder of the Wen family be my guide. Leng Ruoxue pointed at the Wen family elder. When she heard this, her heart skipped a beat and a bad feeling rose in her heart. What were they going to do? Don't tell me you want to silence me? His thoughts started to run wild. Shuer were not tired. The Ning family head and the great elders said helplessly. Why did this little girl chase them away when they had just met? This fact made them quite depressed. How can I not be tired? You've been in the mystic realm for so long, living in fear every day. The pressure is huge. So, quickly go back and rest. Leng Ruoxue urged. Leng Ruoxue chased the Ning family's master and the first elder back to their room. Then, she asked the unlucky Wen family elder to lead the way. As the elder walked, he said with a long face, Uncle Long, I'm also always in fear, so tired. In other words, he also wanted to go back to his room to rest. Why are you telling me? Whatever our little girl says. Uncle Long said as if it was none of his business. Miss Leng, can I go back to my room to rest? After the elder of the Wen family heard what Uncle Long had to say, he looked at Leng Ruoxue and asked unwillingly. He did not expect that a reverent god could not even make such a small decision. He even asked him to ask a god. If this were to spread, how embarrassing would it be? What do you think? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. Miss Leng, this house is not big, I don't think you need me to lead the way. The elder of the Wen family stole a glance at Uncle Long. Seeing that he was still calm and did not seem to be angry, he gathered his courage and said, Then what's the point of you staying here? This young lady doesn't support idle people. Leng Ruoxue said coldly. Ah. The elder of the Wen family was stunned. What did this wretched girl mean? What did he mean by what value did he have here? What do you mean by idle? After all, he was a divine emperor. How could it be of no value? Furthermore, he was not idle, because they had not eaten for many days. What do you mean by that? The elder of the Wen family asked shamelessly after he had recovered from his shock. His eyes were burning with a raging flame, and the flame flickered with the light of anger. If you're of no value, I'll throw you out and feed you to those monsters, so that we don't waste air. Leng Ruoxue laughed evilly. What did you just say? I dare you to say that again. The elder of the Wen family thought he had heard wrong and could not help but ask again. AI, it seems that you are really useless. You can't even understand what I'm saying. Uncle Long said sympathetically. Then, he continued, my little girl said that if you don't have any value, she should throw you out of the house so that you don't occupy the latrine pit and become a dog in the manger. You should understand now. Chapter 1769, Looking for Trouble? 2. You dare. I'm an elder of the Wen family. This time, the Wen family elder who had heard everything clearly was so angry that his face turned red and his neck became thick. He raised his voice and roared. What's wrong with the Wen family's elders? Is it that amazing? Leng Ruoxue scoffed. You dare to look down on the Wen family? The Wen family elder's voice grew even louder, as if he was afraid that no one could hear him. His words also successfully attracted the crowd's attention. What happened? At this time, a slightly aged voice interrupted. Then, an old man walked up to them. The old man's hair was white, but he had a ruddy complexion. However, he didn't seem to be in good spirits. Second elder. This damned, ugly woman actually looks down on the Wen family. We can't let her off. The elder of the Wen family said hurriedly when he saw that help had arrived. I'm right to say that you're useless. You didn't even do anything and you're already complaining. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Young lady, although I don't know what kind of grudge you have with Elder Xiong, but the divine world has always respected the strong. Elder Xiong is a divine emperor, you should respect him. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, the Wen family's second elder frowned. Even though this was a critical period and he didn't want to cause any trouble, the Wen family's reputation could not be trampled on. What's wrong with the divine emperor? Everyone here is at least a divine emperor, but aren't you all still trapped here like birds in a cage? Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. That's because the second elder of the Wen family was about to explain himself when he was rudely interrupted by Lung Ruoxue. Because those monsters can't be killed, right? Lung Ruoxue said with a half-smile. That's right. We've thought of all kinds of ways, but we can't kill those monsters. The second elder of the Wen family said. So you're saying that you're all useless? Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. What do you mean by that? The Wen family's second elder questioned angrily. Second elder, these are the words she said to me before. At this moment, Elder Xiong added fuel to the fire. I just said it and it was the literal meaning. Lung Ruoxue smiled calmly. You're saying we're useless? The Wen family's second elder narrowed his eyes as a trace of anger flashed across his eyes. Isn't this already proven? Lung Ruoxue said lightly. What a bold little girl. I'll prove to you how powerful I am now. The Wen family's second elder was infuriated as he spoke fiercely. After he finished speaking, he pounced towards Lung Ruoxue like a tiger pouncing on its prey. However, before he could get close to Lung Ruoxue, he was stopped by Uncle Long. Thanks, old man. What's there to prove to a little girl? Why don't you prove it to me? Uncle Long laughed evilly as he grabbed the second elder's arm. You're a reverent god. The Wen family's second elder was exasperated. This was clearly bullying. You're still a divine emperor. You can even fight against a god, so why can't I let you prove your strength to me? This doesn't make sense, does it? Uncle Long said with a smile. It was rare to have so many sandbags. If he didn't practice now, when would he do it? What's more, what kind of strength can you prove to a god? Even if you win, you'll be tainted by others. Therefore, proving it to me is your best choice. If you can win against me, you'll also make others look at you in a higher light, don't you think so? Uncle Long advised earnestly. With that, Uncle Long dragged the second elder of the Wen family away like he was carrying a little chicken. Naturally, they went to a corner. Uncle Long, why didn't you beat him up in front of us? Watching Uncle Long's back view, Lung Ruoxue was a little confused. Maybe Uncle Long is shy. The demon guessed. The conversation between the two of them made the rest of the people present feel embarrassed. Would Uncle Long be shy? How could they not believe it? However, Uncle Long had even beaten up the second elder of the Wen family. This made them even more certain that they should not offend Uncle Long. No, that's not right. He couldn't offend any of these people. Just as they were thinking about this, the evildoer pulled the Wen family's elder Xiong in front of him and said with a smirk, Since your helper has been taken by Uncle Long, then let me have a good time. After he finished speaking, he attacked Wen family's elder Xiong in front of everyone. For a moment, the entire courtyard was silent. Other than the crisp sound of slaps, the sound of fists hitting flesh, and the rising and falling screams, everyone didn't even dare to breathe. At this time, Elder Xiong in front of them had long been beaten silly. Instantly, everyone's backs broke out in cold sweat. That was a divine emperor. He was actually beaten up by a god king to the point where he couldn't even fight back. To be more precise, he had been beaten silly from the beginning and had no ability to resist at all. At this moment, the violent image of the evildoer had also been deeply imprinted in their hearts. Throwing the Wen family's elder Xiong onto the ground, his devilish black eyes looked around at everyone's faces before he slowly opened his mouth and said, Who was the one who told us not to come in? He was planning to settle the score after this. Upon hearing this, the crowd quickly dispersed, exposing the two elders from the Cheng and Yao families who had said those words. Seeing this, the two elders were so angry that they almost vomited blood. This group of disloyal guys, this was blatant betrayal. However, what made them feel even more regretful was why they were so curious. If they hadn't come to watch the show, wouldn't they have been able to avoid this calamity? Could it be that this violent fellow would come to their room to beat people up? In fact, that was very possible. Looking at the two lonely people standing in the middle of the yard, the demon's lips curled into a smile. Then, he comforted them, Don't be afraid. Let's have a spar. Can we not spar? The two of them asked in unison, their faces pale with fear. They didn't want to spar with this violent guy. The way this man had beaten up Elder Xiong had been deeply etched in their hearts, so they were a little afraid. Of course not. Don't be afraid. There are two of you, and you're stronger than me. So, you should be confident in yourself. I'm the one you should be afraid of. The demon kindly comforted. No way. They had an instinctive fear of the evildoer. Therefore, they could not be confident in themselves as the evildoer had said. Besides, ever since they were ruthlessly taught a lesson by Uncle Long, their confidence had not recovered yet. In addition, they had just witnessed the violence of the evildoer. He was not much weaker than Uncle Long. A living example was in front of them, and they could not be tough at all. Seeing that the two of them were silent and only looked at him in fear, the demon lost his patience and shot forward like an arrow. He released 2 strands of black divine power that were thinner than a strand of hair and quietly wrapped them around Elder Yao and Elder Cheng's bodies. After they were tightly bound, he began another round of killing the chicken to warn the monkeys. Chapter 1770. Looking for Trouble? 3. After a long time. Uncle Long walked out from the corner and saw the 3 chubby guys lying on the ground. He patted the evildoer's shoulder in praise and praised, "Little Bratji, not bad. It seems like we have a telepathic connection when it comes to beating people up. Thank you for your praise, Uncle Long." The demon laughed. Then he asked curiously, "Where's the second elder of the Wen family? I haven't beaten him up yet." "He's in the corner. However, he's unconscious now, so you can beat him up when he wakes up," Uncle Long suggested. "All right." The demon nodded. A demon. A demon. The conversation between Uncle Long and the evildoer was the only word that everyone could think of. However, they were also very glad that they were not the ones who offended these devils. In fact, they had no idea that Lung Ruoxue and the other 2 were just trying to make an example out of them. Hence, as long as they did not walk right into the muzzle of their guns, nothing would happen. However, the seeds of fear had already been planted in their hearts. After the 3 of them made an example of each other, they acted as if nothing had happened and found a place to sit down. However, not long after they sat down, someone came to question them with a dark face. "Are you the ones who injured our Wen family members?" The Wen family's head stood in front of Lung Ruoxue and the other 2, scowling and scowling. "So what if I am?" Lung Ruoxue raised her head and looked at the man in front of her with her beautiful eyes as she spoke in a disapproving tone. After she finished speaking, she sized up the Wen family head again. Although she had long heard of this old man's name, this was the first time she had seen him. The Wen family head looked to be in his early 30s. He was very handsome and had a noble aura. Unfortunately, the greed that flashed past his eyes destroyed his overall image. Due to the conflict he had with the Wen family in the past, Lung Ruoxue did not like him the moment she saw him. Hence, she did not hold back when she spoke to him. "You're really looking for death." The head of the Wen family was furious. This ugly woman in front of him was really looking down on the Wen family. If he didn't teach her a lesson today, the Wen family would become a laughingstock. In fact, he was originally staying in his room to recuperate. Who knew that the head of the Yao family would suddenly run into his room and tell him that someone from the Wen family had been beaten up? He even said that the Wen family had become the laughingstock of the divine realm. When he heard this, his anger immediately rose. Therefore, without thinking, he asked for the location of the murderer and rushed over. After he finished speaking, the Wen family head immediately made his move. A cold glint appeared in his hand and a saber that was emitting an endless amount of cold chi appeared. Immediately, he brandished the saber in his hand and slashed at Lung Ruoxue. Clang, clang. With a loud bang, the Wen family head's blade and a steel fork collided, creating countless sparks. Wen family head, you're a reverent god, so it's inappropriate for you to attack a junior. This old man will accompany you for a few moves. Uncle Long stood up and said, in fact, he had long wanted to have a good fight with the patriarchs of the 8 great divine regions. However, he was too lazy and was always unwilling to leave his residence. Therefore, this wish had never been realized. Now, he finally had the chance. Moreover, he had to come without any effort. Uncle Long was very happy. Who do you think you are? Are you even worthy of me making a move? The head of the Wen family said disdainfully, obviously not taking Uncle Long seriously. I'm a human, so I can't be considered a thing. Are you a thing? Uncle Long said with a look of surprise. Looking at Uncle Long's expression, Lung Ruoxue laughed in her heart. It seemed like Uncle Long had a talent for angering people. Not bad. You're looking for death. The head of the Wen family roared in anger. Then he locked his target on Uncle Long. This was Uncle Long's intention. Then, the two of them started fighting in the courtyard. Instantly, the glints of blades and the shadows of swords could be seen in the sky above the courtyard. Wherever the blue and green divine power went, it even brought up pieces of debris. However, they had only fought for a few rounds when they were suddenly interrupted by a furious voice. Damn it! Who allowed you to fight here? The great elder roared in exasperation. Looking at the courtyard full of wolves, he even felt like crying. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. This courtyard was carefully decorated by him, but now, it had become so tattered that it was unbearable to look at. This was preposterous. I didn't want to fight. It was the Wen family head who came over to teach us a lesson. Hence, I had no choice but to defend myself. Uncle Long quickly pushed the blame away. Thanks. After hearing Uncle Long's words, the head of the Wen family was so angry that he was panting. What was this? Was he making bogus accusations? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shout, "You were the ones who injured the Wen family members first. That's why I'm here to settle the score with you. Don't try to shirk your responsibility." We're not shirking responsibility, we're just telling the truth. Besides, even if we beat up your Wen family members, we didn't destroy this courtyard. This courtyard became like this because you came to us aggressively to settle the score and wanted to stand up for your family. Master Wen, there are so many witnesses here, are you still trying to deny it? Uncle Long said with a smile. First Elder, if you don't believe me, you can ask the people here and see if it's the same as what I said, he added. There's no need to ask. I'm well aware of what kind of person Old Man Wen is. The First Elder said in a bad mood. His shrewd eyes glared fiercely at the Wen family head, and his words angered the Wen family head to the point of death. Great Elder! How can you accuse me without even asking? The head of the Wen family suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Fuck! If this old thing was not the First Elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters, he would definitely teach this old thing a lesson. However, he could only endure it now. I wronged you? Alright. Then I'll let you be convinced. Let me ask you, before you came here, was my courtyard like this? The great elder pointed to a ragged courtyard and asked. I didn't pay much attention to that. The head of the Wen family said shamelessly. You didn't notice? Then tell me. Wen family head, what is this place like? The first elder pointed at the others present. When the others saw that they had been dragged into the water, they all smiled bitterly. If they had known earlier, they wouldn't have come to watch the show. However, they had nowhere else to go other than this courtyard. They couldn't afford to offend the Wen family head, let alone the First Elder. Hence, everyone fell silent again. Great Elder! They're afraid of the Wen family head's revenge. How would they dare to say it? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue reminded them with a faint smile. The moment they heard this, everyone couldn't help but curse in their hearts. Was this woman trying to sow discord? Her words were clearly adding fuel to the fire, and if they chose the wrong side, they would lose their lives. Thinking of this, everyone wanted to cry but had no tears. Oh, that makes sense. Lung Ruoxue's words made the First Elder nod his head continuously. Following that, he said angrily, You guys are only afraid of him, so I'm easy to bully? I'm telling you, if you don't tell me the truth, I'll send you out of this house. I mean what I say. As soon as the great elder finished speaking, everyone's faces turned pale. Then they fought to tell the truth. Great Elder! It was indeed the head of the Wen family who made the first move. Great Elder! I can also prove it. Everyone quickly expressed their stance, while the Wen family head's expression became more and more unsightly. The Wen family head could see that in this situation, his position as a reverent god was definitely not as important as the Great Elder. Otherwise, even if they didn't want to offend the Great Elder, they would never have been willing to offend him. However, their lives were more important now, so they didn't care at all. After realizing this fact, the Wen family head was so angry that he turned around and left. However, he had only taken 2 steps when he was stopped by Lung Ruoxue. Wen family head, you're leaving just like that? Lung Ruoxue chuckled. What else do you want? The Wen family head's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at Lung Ruoxue. You've turned the Great Elder's courtyard into such a dilapidated state, you should at least give some compensation, right? You can't just walk away like this. Lung Ruoxue reminded with a smile. However, she was currently in disguise, so her smile was terrifying. Shuer is right, you can't just leave like this. You must compensate me for my losses. The Grand Elder said. Good. The head of the Wen family gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. However, the situation was pressing and it was not the time for him to do whatever he wanted. Hence, he had to endure it. However, he would remember all of these people. Since the Wen family head is so forthright, then we can't be stingy. Just compensate the cost price of 1 million top-grade crystals. After that, well, forget about the losses you've caused to the Grand Elder. Lung Ruoxue was very generous. However, her words made the Great Elder break out in a cold sweat. Good boy. Shuer really dared to make a bid. This was definitely an outrageous demand. However, seeing the constipated look on the Wen family head's face, even if he didn't get the money, he would still feel quite happy. 1 million? Why don't you just rob someone? As expected, the Wen family head was extremely furious and the flames of anger in his eyes burned even more fiercely. Rob? We're law-abiding citizens of the divine realm. How can we commit such an unprofessional act of robbery? Lung Ruoxue's smile was so natural. However, in the eyes of the Wen family's master, her smile was extremely unsightly. Chapter 1771, Luring the Snake, 1. What is the difference between your actions and robbery? The Wen family head gritted his teeth as he looked at Lung Ruoxue with a sinister and furious gaze. If looks could kill, Lung Ruoxue would have been riddled with holes by now. Of course there's a difference. We're just compensating you. Lung Ruoxue laughed. Even if I destroy this place, it's not worth 1 million top-grade crystal stones. Do you know how much that is? The head of the Wen family said, suppressing his anger. You think it's not worth it just because you say so? All the decorations here are the Great Elder's painstaking efforts. They're priceless and can't be bought with money. Moreover, I've seen 1 million top-grade crystal stones, so I know how much it is. So, you don't have to feel superior. Even the Great Elder and I don't put 1 million top-grade crystal stones in our eyes. Therefore, you have to compensate this amount. In addition to the loss of this place, it also includes the emotional damage of the Great Elder, you know. Lung Ruoxue explained with a smile. I don't know shit. Lung Ruoxue's words made the Wen family head fly into a rage. The veins on his forehead were throbbing. He really didn't expect the woman in front of him to be so eloquent. She could come up with so many excuses to rob money. This was really infuriating. You don't even understand such a simple logic? I really don't know how you managed to live for so long. Lung Ruoxue sighed speechlessly. With her sigh, everyone present could not help but lower their heads and laugh secretly. Their shoulders that were shaking non-stop revealed the emotions that they were trying their best to hide. The Wen family head's face was so angry that it turned red and white. You. The Wen family head pointed at Lung Ruoxue and was so angry that he was at a loss for words. Shuer. It's still possible to get money from someone else, but it's not that easy to get money from his pocket. Why don't I just suffer a loss from this mute sigh? Why is my life so bitter? At this moment, the first elder spoke in a well-mannered manner. At the same time, he even used his sleeve to pretend to wipe his tears. His words were even more pitiful. However, the Wen family head's expression turned even uglier. Great Elder, you can't be so honest. The Wen family doesn't lack money. Of course, we don't lack money either. However, we can't miss out on the compensation. Otherwise, who would dare to invite him to our house in the future with his destructive abilities? Lung Ruoxue persuaded him patiently. Then what should we do? If he doesn't want to compensate, do you think I can force him with a knife? The great elder pretended to be clueless, his face full of worry. It's fine if they don't want to compensate us. We can just ask the Wen family to leave. Lung Ruoxue said impolitely. But this wasn't good, was it? There are so many monsters out there. If something happens to them, the great elder was in a difficult position, and he did not continue. Thanks, First Elder, your house has limited space and it's already a little crowded with so many people. Now that the Wen family head has destroyed everyone's place of residence, he's not willing to compensate us. He clearly doesn't want everyone to rest well. Since his thoughts are so despicable, why should we be polite to the Wen family? Lung Ruoxue analyzed. Her words made everyone break out in cold sweat and their heads hung lower. They could all tell that this girl was deliberately causing trouble for the Wen family. Hence, it was best for them to draw a clear line with the Wen family now. Otherwise, they would be in trouble as well. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, the Wen family head's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. His shrewd eyes were burning with flames of anger as he rushed towards Lung Ruoxue. Just as he was about to make a move, he was stopped by a pair of strong arms. What old god of plagues, you want to bully the weak? I'm warning you, if you dare to touch a single hair on my precious daughter's head, I'll make you pay. The person who stopped him was the master of the Ning family. In fact, he had come out of the room with the great elder, but he had been hiding in the corner to watch the show. When he saw that the old plague was about to make a move on Schwer, he jumped out. Otherwise, he would have continued to squint. It's not that I'm bullying the weak, she's the one who's going too far. Master Wen looked at Master Ning with a headache and gritted his teeth. Although this old man's injuries were not light, he was also injured. Therefore, if they really fought, he was not absolutely sure that he could defeat this old thing from the Ning family. How is she going too far? I saw everything just now. I'm very sure that she was very polite to you, but you were the one who refused to compensate her. The Ning family head said with certainty, and his words made the Wen family head even angrier. He'll also say something fair. Old god of plagues, you're in the wrong in this matter. Your Wen family doesn't lack this little bit of money, so what's the big deal with compensating us? The head of the Chung family, who had walked out from the crowd, added fuel to the fire. They're right. Old god of plagues, you have to admit to your mistakes. How can you renege on your debt? You're the head of the Wen family, so many eyes are watching your every move. You don't want the Wen family's reputation to be ruined, do you? The master of the Yin family, who had come along, also hit him when he was down. You guys, the Wen family head was so angry. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. So it wasn't you guys who paid this amount of money. Otherwise, he didn't believe that these people would be able to take out such a large sum of money without hesitation. It should be known that crystals of various grades were not only the currency in circulation in the divine realm, but they could also be used to assist in cultivation. Top-grade crystals were not cabbages that could be found everywhere. Every piece of top-grade crystal contained an endless amount of spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Thus, even the descendants of clans with important positions in the 8 divine regions might not be able to get a few pieces in 100 years. Now, this person had asked for 1,000,000 pieces. If this wasn't bullying, what was? Moreover, with these old guys who liked to hit him when he was down, it was impossible for him to leave unscathed. However, as long as he asked for the number of crystals that the other party wanted, his heart felt as if it was cut by a knife. If the other party wanted low-grade crystals, he would give it immediately without saying anything. However, what the other party wanted was top-grade crystals. 1,000,000. Not to mention him, even these old guys couldn't give it to him without frowning. At the thought of this, the head of the Wen family suppressed the raging fire in his heart and the corners of his mouth pulled into an ugly smile. He said with a slight grievance, "Even if you want me to compensate you, you can't ask for such an exorbitant price. Don't tell me that if I ask you to pay 1 million top-grade crystals, you won't feel the pain? My heart doesn't ache. The master of the Ning family was the first to speak. He had compensated so much money before, even more than the old god of plagues. Didn't he still compensate her without even batting an eyelid? Why couldn't this old man do it? He had to make the old plague bleed, otherwise he would feel unbalanced. Chapter 1772, Luring the Snake, 2. Your Ning family has plenty of money. It's the richest family in the 8 great divine regions. Of course you don't feel the pinch. The head of the Wen family roared in anger. Calm down. Our Ning family has a big business and we have to feed a lot of people, so we really don't have much money left. However, our Ning family won't go back on our words. It's only right to pay back what we owe, so even if I have to sell everything I have to pay back the debt. Master Ning's words were so righteous that everyone was stunned. Now they felt some sympathy for Master Wen. It seemed that he had no choice but to compensate. Old god of plague. Old man Ning is right, you made the great elder's place into such a mess, so compensation is only natural. Don't say that this place isn't worth that much money. You know, this place was carefully arranged by the great elder. It's his blood and sweat. He's willing to let us live here. We should be grateful. How can we be so ignorant and cause trouble? Do you really want him to kick the Wen family out of the house before you'll be happy? The head of the Chung clan advised, but he was secretly laughing in his heart. It was impossible for this stingy old plague not to bleed today. Thinking of this, he was very happy. Who asked this old man to be such a miser? It was fine for him to take advantage of others, but to make him bleed was simply like taking his life. Now, let's see what he can do. The head of the Chung clan gloated inwardly. But you can't ask for 1 million all of a sudden. The head of the Wen family gritted his teeth, in case he couldn't control himself, and cursed. Is Grand Elder's house not worth this price? Old god of plagues, your words will make the divine world's blacksmiths bitterly disappointed. If they decide not to forge for your Wen family in a fit of anger, let's see what you can do then. The master of the Yin family reminded the Wen family with a smile. In fact, he really hoped that the old god of plagues would insist on not paying the huge compensation. At that time, the weapon craftsmen of the divine world would definitely have a bad opinion of the Wen family. If they really banned the Wen family's strength would decline by a lot. More importantly, the Wen family did not have a top-notch blacksmith. What does this have to do with this house? I didn't destroy this house. After hearing Master Yin's words, Master Wen was stunned for a moment before he asked in confusion. Although you only destroyed the courtyard, the decoration of the courtyard and the whole house are one. Now that the courtyard has been destroyed, the house is naturally not perfect. The great elder will have to renovate it again. To be honest, your 1 million yuan may not even be enough. The Yin family's master analyzed in an understanding manner. However, Master Wen's face darkened with every word he said. Lung Ruoxue was already laughing in her heart. It seemed like the real ruthless person was here. In fact, the reason why the master of the Yin family said this was because he had been robbed too ruthlessly before. Therefore, now that he met someone who was in the same boat as him, he couldn't help but want to hit him when he was down. He even hoped that the other party's losses would be greater than his. Although this kind of mentality was not very good, he just wanted to see others suffer with him. Therefore, he felt that 1 million top-grade crystals was a little too little. This little money was not even 1/10 of the money he had been robbed. At the thought of this, his resentful eyes drifted to the demon, but he was completely ignored by the demon. When Lung Ruoxue saw the resentful gaze of the Yin family's master, she immediately became alert. Could this old man have any thoughts about the evildoer? I can't let him have any ideas about the demon. At this moment, a chuckle came from the bottom of Lung Ruoxue's heart. It turned out to be Qingju, who had sensed Lung Ruoxue's thoughts, and could not help but laugh. Qingju, don't laugh. Lung Ruoxue transmitted her voice, feeling a little embarrassed and angry. No smile. Sister, I won't laugh. With that, green vessel disappeared without a trace. Thanks. A long while after Master Ian finished speaking, Master Wen was so angry that he was speechless. If he didn't say anything, the others wouldn't take the initiative to speak either. Hence, the atmosphere became heavy. After a long time, the head of the Wen family took a few deep breaths and forced himself to calm down. He then said slowly, "What old man Ian said makes sense, all right. I'll pay for this 1 million top-grade crystal stones." The head of the Wen family had also thought for a long time before making this decision. Originally, he had not expressed his position for so long because he was afraid that the other party would raise the price. Therefore, after thinking through the pros and cons, he immediately agreed to it, lest these old things scheme against him. Wen family head, don't let yourself suffer too much. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a smile. The 1 million yuan was in her hands. Although it was not her money, she was still very happy to be able to get the money from old Mr. Wen. "I'm not aggrieved." The Wen family head glared at her and said unhappily. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. This wretched girl, she obviously wanted him to go bankrupt, yet she told him not to make things difficult for himself. What is this? Although this huge loss made him feel very pained, he paid 1 million top-grade crystals very quickly. It was in the storage ring that he carried with him. The reason why he paid so quickly was that he wanted to quickly end this matter, in case they had other tricks up their sleeves. By then he would definitely go crazy. The crowd looked at the mountain-like top-grade crystals of various attributes on the stone table in front of them, exuding a dense spiritual energy. They couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The Wen family was indeed rich. The head of the Wen family actually carried such a huge amount of wealth with him. Was he not afraid of being robbed? However, when they thought of the Wen family head's status in the divinity and his cultivation, their thoughts faded. This must be the so-called the skilled are bold. His strength was there for all to see. Therefore, he was not afraid of any tribulations. However, if he were to encounter people like Lung Ruoxue, he would cry himself to death. At the thought of this, they began to sympathize with the Wen family head again. At the same time, they were even more determined that they could provoke anyone but those three fellows. They were synonymous with the devil and were two terrifying birds. First elder, count quickly and see if the number is correct. When Lung Ruoxue saw so many crystal stones, her eyes narrowed into a smile as she urged. Good. Count. The Grand Elder's eyes lit up as he looked at the top-grade crystals on the table. As he put the crystals into his storage ring, the number of crystals also appeared in his mind. Immediately, he beamed with joy and said, "Not a single dollar less. Actually, even if I didn't order it, I believe the old god of plagues wouldn't have given me less money. After all, the supreme divinity's mathematics isn't that bad. Even so, we still have to count it. The proper way is to settle the goods with silver." Lung Ruoxue said in a serious tone. What little girl Schwer said makes sense. The great elder nodded repeatedly, the smile on his face almost unconcealable. Although he was not short of money, no one would complain about having more money. Looking at the old man and the young man echoing each other, the Wen family head's face darkened and he said coldly, "Since the bill has been settled, I'll go back to my room." He didn't want to stay in the courtyard any longer, and he didn't want to see this hateful woman who made him bleed. Chapter 1773, Luring the Snake, 3. With that, the Wen family's head left with his hands on his sleeves. This time, Lung Ruoxue did not stop him. "Schwer, that old god of plagues is a vengeful person, and I'm afraid you've already angered him, so you have to be careful in everything you do." As he watched the Wen family head's back view, the first elder's previous excitement was replaced by a slightly worried expression. "Great elder, you're overthinking it. Even if I didn't make him bleed, he'd still have his eyes on me. Since that's the case, why should I care about his anger? Anyway, I don't have to worry about my debts." Lung Ruoxue was very open-minded. However, more importantly, she knew that it was impossible for her to be friends with the Wen family. Hence, she did not care if she had offended the head of the Wen family. She had already beaten up quite a number of the Wen family members. It was no big deal to offend the biggest member of the Wen family. Ha! What Schwer said is right, that old god of plagues is not a big deal. With Godfather here, he won't dare to bully you. Master Ning laughed after hearing Lung Ruox's words. Little girl, I heard you also beat up an elder of our Chung clan? At this time, the head of the Chung family also said half seriously, half jokingly. What? Does the Chung clan head also want to avenge his own elder? Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile, looking as if she was ready to bring it on. How could I be so rude? You guys must have done something wrong to teach him a lesson. You guys did the right thing. The head of the Chung clan said hurriedly. He was not as brainless as the old god of plagues. Once someone told him that his own family member had been beaten up, he would not care and rush over to settle the score with the other party. Especially when the person who beat up someone was Lung Ruoxue, that little girl. Naturally, he would not come over to question the other party. Lung Ruoxue was very satisfied with the attitude of the Chung clan's clan head. She smiled and said, the Chung family's head is still the most understanding and considerate, unlike some old muddle-headed worms who deserve to go bankrupt. That's right. But, little girl, that old god of plagues is very rich. Isn't it a little too little for you to ask for 1 million from him? The head of the Chung clan said in a low voice. However, his soft voice was heard clearly by the family heads, the first elder and Uncle Long. They broke out in cold sweat. Planning to make the old god of plagues bleed? Although they did not object to it, there had to be a good reason. Otherwise, anyone with eyes would know that they wanted to rob them. There's still a long way to go. It's better to make a long-term effort. Otherwise, if we exploit him too much all at once, hell rebound. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Her words caused the clan heads, first elder, and Uncle Long to break out in even more cold sweat. Ruthless. This girl was really ruthless. This was the only thought in their minds at this time. However, they didn't object to scheming against the old god of plagues. Who asked that guy to be so rich that he carried 1 million top-grade crystals with him? This was clearly telling others to come and rob him. If they didn't make a move, wouldn't they disappoint the old god of plagues? Schwer, that old god of plagues, brought so much money with him and gave it to us without even blinking. I believe he must have a lot more on him, so don't miss this opportunity. The master of the Ning family couldn't help but remind him. When Lung Ruoxue heard Master Ning's words, a single word appeared in her heart: hate the rich. Her godfather was definitely an enemy of the rich. In fact, she was very clear that the money he had on him was definitely not less than the Wen family headess. However, they seemed to prefer to see the Wen family in trouble. Lung Ruoxue took out a piece of paper from her bangle and passed it to the first elder. When the first elder saw it, his eyes immediately widened and he looked at Lung Ruoxue in disbelief. Schwer, this. The great elder's hand trembled as he held the piece of paper and he stuttered. He had finally seen what a businessman was like. This little girl was really good at making money. No wonder she was richer than him. This fact made him feel deeply inferior. What's wrong? Seeing the first elder's appearance, the curiosity of the master of the Ning family was also aroused. He anxiously snatched the paper from the first elder's hand, and then his eyes widened. The others were also curious. Old man, don't tell me you're going to take my money too. After a long while, Master Ning gritted his teeth and asked, what kind of money? The great elder didn't have time to answer before the Chung clan's patriarch impatiently asked, we'll have to charge a fee for staying here in the future. The master of the Ning family said with a black face. Then he glared at the initiator, his precious goddaughter, with hidden bitterness. He had just gloated over the misfortune of that old god of plagues, and now it was his turn to bleed. Thinking of the number of Ning family members in this house, his heart bled. Thanks, fees? Old man, we've known each other for so many years, and you still want to collect money for me to stay here? When the patriarch of the Chung clan heard the word fee, he immediately became vigilant and asked with slight dissatisfaction. It is. Old man, if you accept my money now, then I'll also collect money from you when you live with our Ning family in the future. The master of the Ning family threatened. He'll also collect money for you to come to our Qing family. The head of the Qing family immediately agreed. When did I say that I'm going to take your money? Their words made the first elder so angry that he blew his beard and glared. It's good that you don't accept. Hearing this, the two of them immediately felt relieved. Old man, if you don't accept their money, you can't accept mine either. At this moment, the master of the Yin family said anxiously, Don't worry. Those who are on good terms with me are my guests, and I'll let you all stay here for free. Is that okay? The great elder was helpless. It seemed that Shui Er's money-making plan was going to fail in his hands. After all, most of the people living in the house were his old friends and their clansmen. Even if he wanted to make money, he couldn't do it now. Moreover, it was definitely not an easy task to earn money from these stingy old things. He had a deep understanding of this. This is more like it. With the first elder's assurance, the family heads were even more at ease. Great elder. As for the fees, I'll leave it to baby. It's very talented in making money, so I'll definitely take care of it for you. However, once it charges, I'm afraid it will cause some people to be dissatisfied, so you'd better be mentally prepared. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue reminded him. With that, she took out the treasure from the bracelet. Don't worry. I want care, but they're just idle people. It's only right to charge them some money. The great elder said disapprovingly. Then he stroked the baby's soft fur and said with a kind face, Treasure. I'll leave the matter of making money for Grandpa to you. Grandpa won't let you work for free. He'll give you a commission. Little Shui Er's beastie was just so cute. He sighed as he touched it. Grandpa, don't worry. Leave this matter to me. As for what the commission is, forget it. We're family, so don't say such things. Baby said very sensibly. It was very clear that it would not be able to get much money from the first elder, and it was useless for it to ask for money. Its lovely master would definitely not want this money, so it could sell well without any scruples. When the great elder heard what the baby said, he was also very happy. He liked the words family, right? They were family, so there was no need to be so formal. After that, baby chased first elder and the rest back to their room. After all, it was inconvenient for them to stay here. Then, he got Lung Ruoxue to move Ling and a few other beasts out to help him. Not long after, the money-making plan officially began. Although everyone was dissatisfied with the sudden charge, in order not to be kicked out, they still paid the money honestly. Those who didn't have money also signed an IOU and signed an unfair contract with interest. After that, they cherished their time in the house even more. This time, the treasurer did not calculate their expenses in the secret realms separately. After all, these people were much richer than those it had saved before. In that case, there was no need to do anything unnecessary. Although there weren't many people who could collect money from the great elder, the money they received wasn't much less than the previous people. With this result, baby's satisfied tail was about to rise to the sky. However, the Wen family and the Yao family had suffered the most this time. At least 2/3 of the money that baby had received belonged to them. The two family heads hated this fact to the core, but what could they do about living under someone else's roof? Unless they paid them money obediently, they would be chased out. After weighing the pros and cons, they could only swallow their grievances. However, the enmity between them and Lung Ruoxue had also deepened. In the room, Lung Ruoxue, the demon, and Uncle Long sat in front of the table, drinking tea. Little girl, it seems that our plan has failed. After taking so much money from them, they were only a little dissatisfied, but none of them dared to make trouble. Uncle Long was a little depressed. In fact, the reason why they did all these things was to force the hidden chess piece to reveal itself. But who knew that the hidden chess piece had been holding back? This gave him a headache. It seemed that the hidden chess piece was also a cunning person. Otherwise, how could he be so calm? Chapter 1774. The Fish Scale Flower, 1. Uncle Long. Don't worry, this is just the beginning. Lung Ruoxue said confidently. Compared to Uncle Long's anxiety, she was much calmer. She knew very well that the hidden chess piece would not be discovered so easily. Otherwise, he would have been with Godfather and the others for so many days. How could he not have been exposed at all? However, if he stayed in this room, it would be impossible for the hidden chess piece to act rashly or send news to the outside world. Hence, she was not in a hurry. After all, she was most worried about the safety of Godfather and the others. Now that her Godfather and the others were fine, she was relieved. As for when she could find the hidden chess piece, it was not up to her to decide. What other plans do you have, little girl? Uncle Long raised his eyebrows and asked curiously. Uncle Long, if that hidden chess piece can keep his cool and doesn't contact the outside world, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to catch him. So, our next step is to leave this house and give them time to contact us. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't be able to contact him even if they wanted to in this house. Lung Ruoxue explained with a smile. Unless one was the owner of this house, no one could pass any information to the outside world. Go out? But they've all paid, and they're all like frightened birds. It won't be easy to get them out. Uncle Long said worriedly. I've already asked my baby to inform them that except for alchemists and artifact masters, everyone has to stay outside the house during the day. Lung Ruoxue said softly. However, just as she finished speaking, they heard a commotion outside. The three of them stood up and looked at each other. Then they smiled at each other. Little girl, you're really looking for trouble. Uncle Long laughed. This was for the best. His hands had been a little itchy recently, and it would be a waste not to beat up these sandbags that came to his door. They'll have a hard time in the future. Lung Ruoxue said mysteriously. Well done, little girl. Let's go out and watch the show. Uncle Long said impatiently. N. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then the three of them walked out of the door. At this time, the Great Elder's room was full of people. Baby was lying in the Great Elder's arms with a face full of fear. His small body was trembling, and his beautiful silver eyes were watery, looking very pitiful. Great Elder, you have to give us an explanation. What does this little fox mean by her words? A fierce-looking man asked like a fiend. When the first elder heard this, he stroked the baby's fur to comfort it. Then he looked at the man in front of him with a slight headache and said with a slight displeasure, You've scared our baby. Why was he so loud? I'm not deaf. Ah. The man who spoke was stunned and cursed in his heart. His loud voice wasn't the main point, okay? He was here to denounce him for his crimes, but this damn old man actually complained that he was too loud? What the hell is this? Cheng Biao, for the sake of your ancestor, I'll let you off for scaring my baby. You broke into my room so rudely, so I'll let you off too. Now, take these people and leave, or don't blame me for being impolite. The Great Elder ignored Cheng Biao's sour face and continued to warn him. In fact, he was a little resentful in his heart. It should be known that he had the best relationship with the Ning family, Cheng family, and Yin family's patriarchs. However, this little brat from the Chung family had actually become a gunner for them. How could he not be angry? Although he still didn't know why they were so angry, no matter what it was, the Cheng family shouldn't be the ones standing up for him. They were clearly trying to tear him down. When he thought of this, the anger in his heart rose. Someone from the Cheng family. He was really stupid. Thanks, Great Elder. We're here to seek justice. Cheng Biao straightened his back and looked at the people behind him, speaking with a righteous expression. What justice? Did I do something wrong to you? The first elder said impatiently. Of course the Great Elder didn't do anything to let us down. It's this damned little fox that made the decision to throw us out. Cheng Biao roared in anger. The moment he thought of this, the anger in his heart burst out. Kick you out? What was the meaning of this? Did you not pay? The first elder asked in confusion. Then he lowered his head and looked at the treasure in his arms. We've all paid. When everyone heard the first elder's words, they hurriedly said. As long as they thought of the price, they still felt the pain right now. Since you've already paid, this must be a misunderstanding. Besides, I believe that baby has its own reasons for doing this, right? A treasure? The Great Elder asked in a protective manner. Master said that if they hide in the house all day, they'll lose the meaning of coming to the mystic realm. So, he asked me to tell them that from tomorrow onwards, they'll go out during the day and come back to this house at night. It's not to chase them out. Moreover, this big guy didn't pay and brought people here to cause trouble. He's too much. Grandpa, is this the so-called ungrateful wolf? Chase out those who haven't paid, in case they don't know what's good for them. Bao Bao said with some righteous indignation. Her beautiful silver eyes flashed with a trace of slyness, but she still put on a pitiful and lovable appearance. As soon as Baby finished speaking, before First Elder could say anything, the crowd started to blow up again. What? Is there a Cheng family member who didn't pay? Someone didn't pay, why do we have to pay? The crowd chimed in, expressing their dissatisfaction. Those who didn't pay are those who are close to Grandpa. Can you compare? If you have any objections, I can return the money to you. In the future, it's up to you whether you want to live or die. Baby said disapprovingly. Then it continued to speak. It's for your own good that I let you leave this house during the day. Don't forget what you came to the secret realm for. How could these magical places not have any danger? One must know that wealth came from danger. You don't even dare to take the slightest risk, and you still want to have a fortuitous encounter? Isn't that just daydreaming? Look at all of you now. Where's the demeanor of a strong master? My lovely master's subordinates aren't as strong as you, but they're more courageous than you. If word of your rat guts gets out, you'll be the ones who lose face. As for my master's good intentions, it's fine if you don't appreciate them. In any case, my lovely master doesn't expect you to shed tears of gratitude. In addition, if you're still dissatisfied with this, he'll return the money to you. You know, we don't rely on your money to live. We accept money because we don't have any friendship. If we help you for no reason, it's not impossible for you to owe us a favor. However, I'm afraid that some people are ungrateful wolves. When you're in trouble, you'll ask for help, but when you're safe, you'll turn your back on us. So, naturally, we don't want to waste that effort to make you owe us anything, so we'll just take some money. Let's forget about this, but you have to know that your lives can't be bought with money. The treasure spoke eloquently, causing everyone to be stunned. The great elder did not expect the treasure to be so eloquent, and after a moment of shock, he smiled proudly. Chapter 1775, Fish Scale Flower, 2, After a long while. The people who were confused by his words finally reacted, and someone directly asked, "Wait, we're staying in the great elder's house, and the money we collected is given to the great elder. What does it have to do with your master?" Hee, you've reminded me. Baby laughed evilly and continued, "Now, I have some news to announce. My lovely master has a way to deal with those monsters and will also find a way to get you out of here. So, you have to sign up within 3 days before you leave the secret realm. As for the registration fee, it's 2 million top-grade crystal stones per person, and I guarantee that you'll be able to get out safely." Originally, Treasure didn't intend to accept their money, but these people just had to remind it. Since that was the case, if it didn't accept it, wouldn't it disappoint these people? 2 million? You're robbing me. Cheng Biao's eyes were wide open as he asked in disbelief. Do you think 2 million is a lot? Do you know how many monsters there are here? How many can you kill? I still have to rely on my master to kill them. If I didn't take care of you, I wouldn't have asked for less than 2 million. Baby snorted coldly. It had decided that the great elder could exempt the Cheng family's accommodation fees, but the Cheng family's escort fees, it would definitely not be exempted, because the Cheng family had angered it. The consequences would be severe if his baby got angry. Then, Bao Bao added, "This 2 million is just the fee to take you out of the secret realm. But the premise of leaving the secret realm safely is that you must be alive. In addition, if you need our protection, you have to pay another 2 million top-grade crystals. Otherwise, you will be responsible for your own safety in the secret realm." When Baby said these words, his face was full of disappointment and resentment. It didn't intend to accept these 2 sums of money, but these people kept forcing it. Since that was the case, why should it be polite? If it didn't make them go bankrupt, it would write the word treasure upside down. Everyone was completely dumbfounded when they heard what the baby said. First Elder, who was holding onto the treasure, was drenched in cold sweat. He wasn't afraid. After all, Lung Ruoxue would never accept his money. He was ashamed. Look at how ruthless this little beast is when it slaughters people. If their craftsman's guild had someone who was so good at making money, the 8 great divine regions would be inferior. At this moment, Uncle Long, who was at the back of the crowd, was also looking at the treasure with admiration. He whispered to Lung Ruoxue, "Little girl, this treasure has your style. It's truly worthy of being your beastie." Ah! Hearing Uncle Long's words, Lung Ruoxue's forehead was filled with black lines. What did he mean by having her style? She wasn't the one who asked him to take the money, so she was taking the blame for her baby. She felt very wronged, but she knew very well that her baby had accumulated so much money for her, so it wasn't an injustice for her to take the blame. After all, almost everyone knew that she loved money, so it didn't matter if she did it. "Shwe, it looks like baby is annoyed." The demon chuckled and said in an understanding manner. "N." Lung Ruoxue nodded. The more this fire burned, the better. Otherwise, how could that hidden chess piece fish in troubled waters? At this point, Lung Ruoxue gave the demon and Uncle Long a look. The 3 of them then quietly left the Grand Elder's room, leaving everything to baby to handle. After returning to her room, Lung Ruoxue was about to push the door open and enter. Suddenly, the door of the room next door opened and a handsome man walked out. Wasn't this the Alchemist Guild's vice guild leader, Shin Nuo? He was actually here. This surprised Lung Ruoxue. However, she immediately recalled that Shin Nuo should be the person in charge of the Alchemist Guild's trip to the Mystic Realm. Hence, it was not strange to see him here. "Shwe, you know him?" The demon saw that Shwe had actually stared at another man for so long, and the sour bubbles in his heart emerged again. "Thanks, N." Lung Ruoxue nodded. Coincidentally, at this moment, Shin Nuo felt Lung Ruoxue's gaze on her, and she raised her head as well. "President Shin, long time no see." Lung Ruoxue greeted Shin Nu. However, Shin Nuo's face was filled with confusion. He did not remember knowing this woman before him. "Do we know each other?" Shin Nuo asked uncertainly, frowning slightly. "I'm Lung Ruoxue. We've met once in Plentiful City, and I used the name Lung Ruhan." Lung Ruoxue reminded. "Arg. I remember now. You took a disguise pill?" Shin Nuo was suddenly enlightened. The current Lung Ruoxue and the one he had met in Plentiful City were 2 completely different extremes. Furthermore, that Lung Ruoxue had left a deep impression on him. Although they had only met once, he had heard a lot about her from his good friend Luiyue. Therefore, he had been thinking about when he would be able to get to know her for real. Who would have thought that their next meeting would actually be in this mystic realm? However, if they were not fated to meet here, he did not know if he would have the chance to see her again. N. Lung Ruoxue nodded. "Miss Ling, back then you asked me to transfer the letter of exchange Gu. I have already passed it to him, but you have already left the divine realm. He has found nothing." Shin Nuo took the initiative to explain. "Thank you, President Shin. Not long after I found Godfather, I left the God world and continued to cultivate. I only came back to the God world after I became a god. I didn't think that we would actually meet again in this secret realm." Lung Ruoxue laughed as if she was very happy. However, the evil-looking man's face darkened. "Miss Leng, this mystic realm is extremely dangerous. Why are you here?" Shin Nuo asked curiously. Actually, what he wanted to say was that her ability was too low and she should not have come here to take the risk. However, he was afraid that he would hurt Lung Ruoxue's pride, so he did not say it directly. "I'm here to save Godfather and the others," Lung Ruoxue said honestly. "Oh." Shin Nuo nodded and didn't say much. However, from his reaction, Lung Ruoxue could tell that Shin Nuo didn't agree with this. She didn't even need to guess to know that it was because her strength was too low. "Guild leader Shin, one of my maidservants has been poisoned and is still unconscious. Do you know what kind of poison it is?" Lung Ruoxue changed the topic. Even though she had been researching the poison Sueju was infected with when she had nothing to do, she had come up empty-handed, and the book that her master had left for her did not have any records of this poison. Now that she had met Shinua, she would naturally not let this opportunity slip by. After all, Shinua was one of the best alchemists in the firmament. Poisoned? Tell me about the symptoms. Shinua was obviously more interested in this matter. She was bitten by a flower. At first, the flower looked very beautiful, but when it was picked, it turned into a small red snake. After the small snake bit her, it disappeared, and my maidservant fell into a coma. Lung Ruoxue explained simply. Miss Lung, I've seen this poison before. The moment she heard Lung Ruoxue's description, Shinua knew what kind of poison it was. However, she was helpless against it. Chapter 1776, Fish Scale Flower, 3. Does guild leader Shin know what kind of poison it is? Seeing that Shinua actually knew, Lung Ruoxue hurriedly asked. The poison appeared 100 years ago. At that time, someone found an unusually beautiful flower on the mountain and picked it. Then he was poisoned and fell unconscious. His companion saw this and immediately sent him to the Alchemist Guild headquarters. At that time, it was the first time we had seen this poison, so there was no cure at all. In less than 3 months, the poison took effect and the person died. His death was very miserable. All his flesh and blood were sucked dry, and in the end, not even a bone was left. Shinua could not bear to say that. However, for the past 100 years, the alchemists of our Alchemist Guild headquarters have been researching the antidote for this poison, and we've finally found some progress. Shinua added. Really? Lung Ruoxue, who was initially a little disappointed, immediately revealed a look of pleasant surprise when she heard Shinua's words. However, even if we manage to develop the formula for the antidote, we can't make it. Shinua said with a face full of shame. He was afraid that Lung Ruoxue's hopes were too high, so he could only make his words more clear. Why? Lung Ruoxue was a little puzzled. Shinua and Luiyue were the vice guild masters of the Alchemist Guild headquarters, and at the same time, they were also one of the top alchemists in the God realm. How could they not be able to refine the antidote? Could it be? At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue spoke in an understanding manner. President Shin, if you need any herbs, you can tell me. I might have them. From her point of view, there could only be 2 main reasons why they were unable to refine the antidote after researching it. The first was that the medicinal herbs were not complete, and the second was that the alchemist's alchemy skills could not keep up. However, Shinua and Luiyue were the best alchemists in the God realm, and in addition to that mysterious Alchemist Guild's chief, there should be no medicinal pill that they could not refine. Therefore, the biggest possibility that they could not refine the antidote was that they lacked precious medicinal herbs. Young Lady Lung, the main ingredient used to concoct that kind of antidote pill can no longer be described as precious, because it has already gone extinct in the divine realm. Shinua sighed lightly and said helplessly, What is it? Lung Ruoxue asked, unwilling to give up. Fish scale flower. However, the fish scale flowers had disappeared from the divine realm 10,000 years ago. Shinua said, feeling a little embarrassed. He was the one who gave Lung Ruoxue hope, but he was unable to help her, and this made him feel extremely guilty. Other than the fish scale flower, do you need any other precious herbs? When Lung Ruoxue heard that it was a fish scale flower, she felt much more at ease. That was because she had a fish scale flower in her hands, and it had lived for at least 10,000 years. I don't need anything else, but there's no place to get this fish scale flower. Shinua sighed. Just this main ingredient was already enough to give them a headache. If there was another precious ingredient, wouldn't they be depressed to death? President Shin, you'll think of a way to get the fish scale flower. However, I want to know, since you have never refined this antidote pill, can you guarantee that this antidote pill will cure my servant? Lung Ruoxue asked worriedly. This fish scale flower is a wondrous herb. It can be used as both a medicine and a poison. After many years of research, we found that the person and your maidservant were poisoned by a very rare flower poison. If we use the fish scale flower as the main ingredient to refine an antidote pill, it will be able to counter the flower poison and fight it with poison. Therefore, the fish scale flower is the best choice. Shinua said very seriously. Their alchemist guild headquarters had poured in all their manpower and resources to research that kind of strange poison for so many years, so naturally, they would not do it for free. Furthermore, this result was also a conclusion that they had obtained after verifying it with many parties. Miss Ling, although I can't guarantee that the antidote that we have developed can cure your maidservant's poison 100%, I can guarantee that the success rate of the antidote is above 80%. After all, this is a newly discovered poison and the antidote has never been tested on human bodies. So, I can't guarantee 100%. I hope you can understand. Shinua continued. Then let's try. Lung Ruoxue was helpless. Even though she did not want Sueju to become a lab rat, Shinua's words were very true. Furthermore, she could not find anyone who had been poisoned by the same poison as Sueju. Hence, she could only let Sueju test it out personally. Alright, but is Miss Ling really confident in finding the fish scale flower? Seeing how confident Lung Ruoxue was, Shinua asked with uncertainty. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Although she really wanted to ask Shinua for the antidote's formula to refine it for herself, that was something that belonged to the Alchemist Guild headquarters. She was afraid that they would not give it to her so easily. Hence, she did not plan to ask for it. Then we have to hurry. I'm afraid that the poison person can't last more than 3 months. Shinua urged. The person who was poisoned last time had died 3 months later. All right. Lung Ruoxue replied. After that, she informed Shinua and brought the demon back to her room. Thanks. Once she returned to her room, she entered the bracelet and went straight to the herb field. At this moment, Qingju was tending to his favorite herbs in the field. When he saw Lung Ruoxue, he immediately rushed over. Sister! Qingju pounced into Lung Ruoxue's arms and called out happily. Qingju, I'm here to look for the fish scale flower. Lung Ruoxue said directly. Sister, are you looking for me? At this moment, a pretty and tender little doll appeared in front of Lung Ruoxue. The little doll was even smaller than Qingju. It was chubby and pink. On its delicate little face, a pair of big eyes with clear blacks and whites shone brightly. At this moment, he was looking at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of admiration. There was even a touch of pink on his cheeks. He was the spirit of the fish scale flower. When Lung Ruoxue first saw the fish scale flower, it was just a dried flower. She thought that Qingju would keep it in the storeroom, but he actually buried the dried flower in the soil. Later on, she found out from Qingju that the fish scale flower had already developed a spirit. It was just that its body was too damaged, so it showed signs of withering. That was also a form of self-protection for the fish scale flower. With Qingju's meticulous care and the strong recovery ability of the fish scale flower, it did not take long for it to transform into a human. Hence, there were 2 more cute little fellows in her bracelet. As for the other one, it was naturally the 10,000-year-long Su grass that she had obtained previously. Little Yuer, big sister would like to ask for a petal from you. Lung Ruoxue caressed the fish scale flower's little head as she consoled them. Even though the fish scale flower now belonged to her, she had always doted on these little fellows and treated them as equal humans. She had given them enough respect, so these little things were naturally extremely close to her. All right. The fish scale flower nodded without hesitation. Then, a fiery red flame petal appeared on her fair palm and she handed it to Lung Ruoxue. Sister, these leaves are for you too. I've lost it after so many years, so it's no longer of any use to me. However, it's still a good material for making pills. Then the fish scale flower spoke again. This time, pieces of crystal clear green leaves appeared in his palm. Each piece was as exquisite as an exquisite piece of art. Then big sister won't stand on ceremony. Lung Ruoxue kept the flower petals and leaves as she spoke in embarrassment. Big sister, you don't have to be embarrassed. These are all normal drops. They're no longer of any use to me, but they're very useful to you. The fish-scaled flower said. He knew his own value. In fact, not only him but all the other heavenly treasures knew it too. It was also because of this that they could not live in peace with humans. The main reason was that humans were too greedy. If every human could treat them as well as their big sister and give them a place to live, they would be very willing to live in peace with humans. Unfortunately, this could only become their beautiful wish. However, now that he had met his big sister, so he was lucky. It's indeed useful for big sister. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Then she chatted with the two little fellows for a while more before leaving the bracelet. When she handed the petal and 2 leaves to Shenhua, Shenhua's eyes widened in disbelief. She held the petal in her hand and observed it repeatedly for confirmation. The petals were the size of a palm, and the inside was smooth like jade. The outside was like fish scales, shaped like a sheet. The flower was red, bright like fire, and this was the most important characteristic of fish scale flowers. After Shenhua confirmed it, she brought the petal to her nose and sniffed it. A faint fragrance wafted into her nose. From this, it could be seen that this petal was very fresh and had been preserved very well. Miss Lung, this flower petal? Shenhua wanted to say something but stopped. Actually, he wanted to ask Lung Ruoxue where she had gotten this fish scale flower from. However, after some thought, he felt that it was a little abrupt, so he did not continue after saying that. Is there a problem with the petals? Lung Ruoxue played dumb. No, I didn't. These petals are very fresh, and it's the best time to refine pills. How could there be a problem? Shenhua said with some black lines. Is that 1 piece enough? Lung Ruoxue asked with a light smile. Enough. That's enough. Shenhua couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. How precious was the fish scale flower? A small piece was already enough, let alone a whole piece. However, he was a little curious. If he said that 1 piece was not enough, what else did Lung Ruoxue plan to give him? Chapter 1777, Exposed, 1. In reality, if he really said that it was not enough, Lung Ruoxue would not give it to him anymore. She would even blacklist him. After all, Lung Ruoxue was also an alchemist. Although she had never refined a pill with the fish scale flower as the main ingredient, the amount of medicinal pills used was basically the same. The more precious the herb was, the less the amount needed. On the other hand, the herbs that were in high demand were ordinary herbs. Hence, if he really dared to say that 1 petal was not enough, if that was the case, his friendship with Lung Ruoxue would come to an end. Hence, the facts had proven that his character could still withstand the test. Since that's enough, then he'll have to trouble President Shen. These 2 leaves will be my payment, is that okay? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Yes, I can. Shenhua was very happy. The most valuable part of the fish scale flower was its petals, but its leaves were also good ingredients for refining pills. Furthermore, their value was not low. Miss Lung, I'm going to refine the pill. After Shenhua finished speaking, she did not even send her guest off, and immediately went into her temporary pill refining room. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she laughed and returned to her room to wait for news. The moment she returned to her room, Lung Ruoxue was hugged by the demon. Looking at the evildoer's gloomy face, Lung Ruoxue was slightly stunned. She could not help but ask, "Evildoer, who made you angry? Who else could it be besides you?" The demon said in an unpleasant tone. "I didn't do anything." Lung Ruoxue felt wronged. "Do you have a good relationship with that Shen guy? She even stared at him for so long. He's old and ugly, what's there to look at?" The demon was going to settle the score after autumn. He had seen that Schwer had been busy with the fish scale flowers, so he had endured it until now. When Lung Ruoxue heard the demon's words, her forehead was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, "I'm finished." This vinegar jar had acted up again. Although Shenhua looked like she was in her 40s, she was still a handsome uncle. In his words, she was old and ugly. However, at this point, she could not speak up for Shenhua. Otherwise, the demon would definitely be even more persistent. Furthermore, she was very good at coaxing the demon, so she was not flustered. "Demon, you've misunderstood. I don't have a good relationship with President Shen. This is only our second time meeting each other. Moreover, he's old and ugly. Why are you jealous? Lung Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. Then why did you stare at him for so long? The demon half squinted his bright black eyes and said with slight displeasure. No way. When talking to someone, it's polite to look at them. I can't lower my head and talk to him. That would make me look like I'm not presentable, don't you think so? Lung Ruoxue argued. You're right. The demon snorted coldly. Although he knew that Shuer was quibbling, he could not say anything. This made him quite depressed. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. Lung Ruoxue was overjoyed and opened the door without thinking. Seeing that it was Uncle Long and Baby, she was overjoyed. Uncle Long, quickly come in. Lung Ruoxue urged. Uncle Long looked at Lung Ruoxue, then at the evil-looking man with an unfriendly expression. He then carried his baby into the room. The moment Baby saw Lung Ruoxue, although it wanted to jump into her arms, it chose to stay in Uncle Long's arms when it saw the evil-looking man's dark face, in case it lost its life. Little girls, what's wrong? Uncle Long asked curiously as he felt the strange atmosphere between the two. Thanks, nothing, Uncle Long. Didn't you go back to your room? Why are you here again? Lung Ruoxue asked in bewilderment. Baby went to find me, and now I'm its helper. Uncle Long said with pride. After hearing Uncle Long's words, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat off her forehead. She thought to herself, Uncle Long doesn't have to be so happy even if he's just a hired thug, right? She had always thought that Uncle Long was an expert who didn't care about anything. However, after getting to know him, she realized that Uncle Long was also an expert who wanted to see the world in chaos. At first, she couldn't accept this fact, but now she was much calmer. Cute master, there are so many people who want to kill your baby. If it wasn't for Uncle Long, you wouldn't have been able to see your cute baby again. At this moment, Baby's silver eyes were filled with tears as he said pitifully. That pitiful little appearance was really pitiful. What's going on? Lung Ruoxue was a little surprised. She had thought that her baby had already settled those people. It's like this. Back in the Grand Elder's room, I was almost done with those people. Many of them paid us to protect them and bring them out of the secret realm. However, a few people from the Yao and Wen families came later. When they heard the amount we charged, they immediately turned hostile and even encouraged everyone to kill me. I hid at Uncle Long's place and escaped. Otherwise, my lovely master would never have been able to see your treasure again. Baby said with tears in his eyes. So, the Yao and Wen families don't need our protection or help to get them out of the secret realm? Lung Ruoxue asked with uncertainty. At least half of them don't need us to protect them or bring them out of the secret realm, and some of these people include the elders of the Qing family. Of the 8 divine domains, only the Ning and Yin families don't object. Baby reported. Since that's the case, refund them their accommodation fees. We don't care anymore. Lung Ruoxue said emotionlessly. All right. Baby laughed evilly. Returning their accommodation fees also meant that their master would not care about their life or death. That's great. It had long been disdainful of those people's superior attitude. Moreover, the 8 divine regions were nothing great. If they wanted to leave this place and keep their lives here, they had to rely on master. It was a pity that they couldn't understand. There would come a time when they would regret it. At that time, it would charge more money than it was now, it thought secretly. Cute master, I asked those alchemists and blacksmiths to hand over pills or equipment. It's considered giving them special treatment. After converting it to money, it's almost half of what those aristocratic families have. So, they're all very satisfied and didn't cause any trouble. Baby said again. Thank you for your hard work, baby. Lung Ruoxue patted her baby's head and consoled him. It's not hard to work for my lovely master. My baby was just a little frightened. Baby lowered his head and said, Baby, don't worry. I'll get justice for you. Lung Ruoxue promised. Just as she finished her sentence, someone knocked on the door again. Lung Ruoxue gave the evildoer a look. The evildoer understood her meaning and stood up to open the door. Outside the door were Master Ning, First Elder, and Master Cheng. Shui, Godfather is here to see you. As the master of the Ning family spoke, he strode into the room, followed by the Great Elder and the master of the Cheng family. Godfather, we've just separated, Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. Chapter 1778, Exposed 2. So what if I can't come and see you? The master of the Ning family deliberately pulled a long face and said with some displeasure. Sure, but, Godfather, I still hope that you can have a good rest, because we will be leaving here tomorrow to meet up with Feng De and the others. Leng Ruoxue reminded. Why are you in such a hurry? The master of the Ning family was surprised. I'm afraid that Feng De and the others will be worried if I don't go back for too long. Leng Ruoxue said honestly. Shui has a point, we should leave this place. At this moment, First Elder chimed in. After he finished speaking, he even shot a look at the Chung clan's clan head. However, Leng Ruoxue pretended not to see First Elder and the Chung clan's clan head exchanging flirtatious looks. So, there's still one day left. You should go back to your room and rest. Otherwise, you won't have the energy to deal with those monsters. Leng Ruoxue smiled faintly. Shui, I have something to discuss with you. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue wasn't even looking at him, the head of the Qing clan had no choice but to speak directly. Patriarch Qing, if you have something to say, just say it. Leng Ruoxue knew what was going on. She laughed in her heart. It seemed like this old man couldn't keep his cool anymore. However, he really had to worry about those troublesome descendants. I know that some of the Qing family's elders are insensible and have annoyed you. Can you give me face and not hold it against them? Don't worry. Our Qing family will pay for their expenses in full, and I guarantee that there won't be a single cent less. The master of the Qing family promised. After he knew that someone from the Qing family had joined in the trouble, he immediately went to find the old man of the Ning family and the Great Elder. At first, those two old men didn't intend to help and only looked at him sympathetically. In the end, he said a lot of good things and promised a lot of unfair conditions before they were willing to go with him. Boo, these two old things were disloyal. Qing family head. Originally, I shouldn't have argued with them because of you, but now is a critical time, and I have to be extra careful. They clearly look down on me, so why should I care about their life and death? I've just decided to return some people's accommodation fees. Their life or death is up to you. Leng Ruoxue said emotionlessly. Shui, I'll apologize on their behalf, okay? The head of the Qing clan bitterly said with hidden bitterness. Patriarch Qing, I didn't want to tell you about this at first, but since it's come to this, I don't intend to hide it from you. It's also good to let you be mentally prepared. Leng Ruoxue hesitated for a moment after hearing Master Cheng's words, then slowly replied. What is it? Seeing Leng Ruoxue's serious expression, Master Ning, First Elder, and Master Cheng all looked at her seriously. There's a hidden chess piece of the men in black around you. That person has been lurking around you all this time, waiting for the opportunity to strike. However, I haven't found this person yet, so everyone in this house is suspicious. Leng Ruoxue didn't beat around the bush and said directly. What? This is true? The master of the Ning family asked in surprise. Leng Ruoxue nodded. Thanks, Shui, you don't have any clues at all? The Great Elder asked worriedly. If there was such a time bomb around them, their safety would be a big problem. The time is too short, so I haven't caught that person's trail yet. However, I'm trying my best. Leng Ruoxue explained. If there's anything you need our cooperation with, just tell us, girl. The master of the Ning family sighed. Godfather, it's a critical time now. If the people in the clan can't be of one mind, then it's better to give up on such clansmen. Leng Ruoxue's words were very subtle, but the three of them, who were experienced with age, understood the meaning between the lines. Instantly, the Great Elder and Master Ning's eyes turned to Master Cheng at the same time. The head of the Qing family laughed bitterly. He knew that Lung Ruox's words were meant for him because there were some troublesome descendants. However, as the old ancestor of the Chung family, he really hoped to bring everyone who was brought into the mystic realm out safely. Furthermore, those people could be considered the elites of the Qing family. If they lost them, it would be a huge loss for the Qing family. After some thought, the head of the Qing family said, "Shuer, there are some people in the Qing family who are not easy to worry about, but they are still very loyal to the Qing family. So, as the head of the family and the ancestor of the Qing family, I can't abandon them. How about this? I'll give you the cost of their departure without any difference. As for their behavior, I'll control them. If they still don't repent, then I'll definitely put righteousness before family." Clan head Cheng's tone was one of negotiation. From this, it could be seen that he valued Lung Ruox's attitude. Seeing that old man Cheng had already put it this way, Lung Ruoxue could only nod her head and say the ugly words first. "Patriarch Cheng, I'll give them one more chance. I hope you can restrain them. However, if they're incited by others again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Of course. I'll go back and teach them a good lesson. They definitely won't dare to do it again." The head of the Qing clan promised. After he finished speaking, he nodded to Lung Ruoxue and the rest before turning around and leaving the room. After Master Cheng left, Master Ning continued to ask with a serious face, "Shuer, do you have any suspicions about this hidden chess piece?" "Godfather, this hidden chess piece's strength should be at Reverend God level," Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. When they had first entered this place, Lung Ruoxue had arranged for Qing Ju to investigate the people here. Qing Ju had used his mind-reading technique on those below the Reverend God level. However, he had not found the hidden chess piece that they were looking for. With Qing Ju's current strength, Reverend God level was the only one that he could not use his mind-reading technique on. Hence, he had no way of checking on the Reverend God level experts here. As such, their search had been narrowed down. Reverend God? In that case, aren't I a suspect? The master of the Ning family blinked his eyes, finding it hard to believe. Besides, he couldn't understand how a supreme god, who was already a top expert in the divine world, could become someone else's hidden chess piece. This was really unbelievable. However, I believe that Godfather isn't this hidden chess piece. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you about this. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. "Godfather, you've been in contact with them for a long time. Do you think anyone is suspicious?" Lung Ruoxue asked again. "Suspicious? In terms of suspicion, the reason we came to this secret realm was all because of that old plague. Originally, we didn't plan to come, but we couldn't stand his persuasion and we didn't want to be looked down by him, so we decided to take the risk with him," the master of the Ning family said after some thought. "He can indeed be listed as a suspect, but I think he's injured," Lung Ruoxue said. Based on her observation, that old man seemed to be quite badly injured. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.